18 signs you're entering the most powerful phase of your life. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." In this video, we'll explore 18 powerful signs that reveal you are stepping into the most transformative and empowering phase of your life. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that true growth comes from applying these insights to your everyday journey. So as you listen, think about where you see these signs in your own life. Have you felt any of them unfolding within you recently? Share your experiences in the comments below, because your story might be the encouragement someone else needs today. 1. The cracking of the ego. The cracking of the ego is one of the clearest signs that you are entering the most powerful phase of your life, because it is the moment when everything you once believed defined you, your identity, roles, and masks, begins to collapse, not as a punishment, but as a sacred clearing, so your deeper self can finally emerge. The pride you once felt in your title, your reputation, or your possessions suddenly feels hollow, and the applause you once chased no longer satisfies the hunger of your soul. What seems at first like loss is actually liberation. For as Carl Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is the beginning of making the unconscious conscious, the moment when the false self begins to fall away, making room for a greater truth to shine through. As these old structures break down, you might feel unsteady, because the ego has been the armor you wore for decades, protecting you in a world that often demanded performance rather than authenticity. Yet the cracking is necessary, because armor not only blocks harm, but also suffocates growth, and you cannot step into spiritual awakening while clinging to a mask. Spirituality shows us that true transformation often feels like fire, painful, consuming, and relentless. But fire purifies, and through that purification, your essence is revealed. In this stage, the man who once measured his worth by success begins to search for meaning. The one who once sought recognition begins to crave peace. And the one who once built his life around control begins to surrender to something greater than himself. The cracking of the ego is not destruction for destruction's sake, but a passage into wholeness. Jung called this the process of individuation, where you integrate the shadow, the hidden parts of yourself, and step into alignment with your true nature. You stop asking, "What do others think of me?" and start asking, "Who am I?" when everything external is stripped away. This question may terrify the ego, but it awakens the soul. And when the soul awakens, you no longer need to prove yourself. Your presence alone carries a power that words cannot explain. Spiritual wisdom teaches that the seed must break for life to grow. And just as a snake must shed its skin, so too must you shed the ego that once fit but now suffocates. At first, it feels like a crisis, a tearing apart of all you thought you were. But with time, you recognize it as an initiation into a higher state of being. The man who endures this cracking comes out more grounded, more authentic, and more powerful than ever, not because he gained something new, but because he uncovered what was always there beneath the masks. This is the essence of spirituality and spiritual awakening: to live no longer for appearances, but for truth, to walk no longer in fear, but in freedom, and to embody wisdom not as theory, but as lived reality. When the ego cracks, you do not become less, you become whole. Comment below. I release my old self. If you are ready to embrace the cracking of the ego and step into the most powerful phase of your life. 2. Inner death. When the old self begins to dissolve, when your desires no longer ignite you, when your passions feel hollow, and even the values you once swore by crumble before your eyes, you are experiencing what Carl Jung called a psychic death, an inner death that strips away illusions and clears space for something truer to be born. This is not a punishment nor a failure. It is a sacred invitation to transformation, the necessary burning of the forest so the soil may grow fertile again. As Jung once wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, and in this painful unraveling, you discover the seed of rebirth, because the identity that once held you cannot carry the weight of who you are becoming. Spiritual wisdom reminds us that the soul cannot step into its destiny while clinging to the fragments of yesterday, and so life demands you surrender what no longer belongs to you. You may resist this loss. You may grieve the ambitions that once propelled you, or the relationships that once defined you. But resistance only deepens the suffering. Jung said, "We cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning." And this truth is written in your soul. The tools that brought you this far will not carry you into the most powerful phase of your life. Just as a forest fire paves the way for new life, the collapse of your old values creates the very conditions for growth, clarity, and freedom. What you perceive as emptiness is not a void, but a cleansing, a preparation for deeper abundance. What you feel at the end is only the beginning of a profound spiritual awakening, one that calls you to shed your false layers and reveal the essence that has always been hidden within. When you stand in this place of unraveling, stripped of certainty, feeling bare in the silence of your soul, know that this is the very threshold of power. The most radiant light is born not from comfort, but from the crucible of transformation. And the strongest souls are those who allow themselves to die to the old so they may awaken to the new. This is why Rumi's wisdom still resonates across centuries. Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul, even if winter seems endless, for it is preparing you for a spring you cannot yet imagine. Through this psychic death, you are not losing yourself. You are meeting your true self for the first time, the self that does not live for shallow victories or borrowed approval, but for purpose, depth, and inner freedom. What you are experiencing is the sacred gateway Jung revealed, the moment when life takes everything away only to return you to the power that was always yours. And by embracing this death, you step into the rebirth that will carry you into the fullness of your destiny. 3. The uprising of the unconscious. The uprising of the unconscious is one of the clearest signs that you are stepping into a more powerful phase of your life. Because when dreams grow more vivid, synchronicities appear with striking frequency, and intuitions whisper truths you can no longer ignore. Life itself begins guiding you toward authenticity. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And in this moment, you begin to realize that what felt like chance has always been the deeper language of your soul. Dreams bring symbols that reflect your hidden struggles and longings. Synchronicities connect your inner world to outer events, and intuition rises as a quiet but undeniable compass, leading you forward, all reminding you that spirituality is not distant or abstract, but alive and pressing in your everyday life. In the modern world, many people dismiss these experiences as random repeated numbers on a clock, a dream that lingers, the same song echoing in unexpected places. But when you slow down and pay attention, you see that these are the signs of your unconscious uprising, urging you to listen. Take, for example, someone working in a job that looks successful on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. He dreams night after night of climbing endless stairs, but never reaching the top. In daily life, he keeps meeting friends who have left unfulfilling careers and found paths filled with meaning. At first, he shrugs it off as coincidence, but eventually, he sees the pattern his unconscious is speaking to him through dreams and synchronicities, pressing him to confront the emptiness and choose a more authentic path. This is the very essence of spirituality and spiritual growth. Not just silent meditation, but the ability to hear and trust the symbols that arise from within, to recognize that your unconscious is not your enemy, but your deepest guide. Jung called these meaningful coincidences synchronicity, a bridge between the inner psyche and the outer world, showing us that life is never as random as it seems. This uprising is not always comfortable, because it forces you to face truths you may want to avoid. Your intuition may tell you that a relationship no longer aligns with your soul, or synchronicities may nudge you toward risks your ego fears to take, and your first instinct is to ignore it. Yet every time you silence the unconscious, you also silence your power. True spirituality is not about avoiding discomfort, but about walking through it with awareness, because the unconscious rises not to destroy, but to heal, stripping away the illusions of the ego so that you can live aligned with your truest self. Jung named this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole, and the uprising of the unconscious is the doorway through which it begins. The more you trust this uprising, the more harmony you begin to feel in your life. Suddenly, the right people cross your path. Clarity comes in moments you least expect, and the inner conflicts you carried for years begin to dissolve. Dreams, synchronicities, and intuitions stop feeling like interruptions and instead reveal themselves as guidance from within, reminding you that spirituality is not something you visit in temples or books alone, but something unfolding in every step you take. The lesson is to give your unconscious a voice. Write down your dreams. Notice the patterns that repeat. Honor the subtle nudges of your intuition and let them shape your choices. Jung's reminder still holds. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. To awaken is to let the uprising of the unconscious lead you, to allow your spiritual growth to deepen, and to live with authenticity, clarity, and courage as you step fully into the most powerful phase of your life. If you feel the uprising of your unconscious guiding you, repeat after me. I welcome the power rising within me. This message is meant for me today, and I embrace it fully. 4. Emergence of the shadow. When repressed emotions and unacknowledged traits rise to the surface, they rarely arrive gently. Instead, they push through with a force that demands attention, often bringing discomfort, conflict, and inner unrest. Anger that was buried long ago may suddenly erupt in moments of stress. Insecurities that seemed mastered return in unfamiliar shapes, and grief or fear that once felt distant begins to weigh heavily again. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the part of us that holds everything we suppress, deny, or fear to confront. It is not evil, but rather a raw reservoir of energy, unpolished and waiting for us to face it. Without acknowledging it, a man may live outwardly successful, yet inwardly divided, restless, and unfulfilled. But when he has the courage to allow the shadow to emerge and begins the difficult process of understanding it, he unlocks a source of power that cannot be found anywhere else. This emergence of the shadow often shows itself in modern life, when the old masks no longer fit. A man who has spent decades chasing career stability may suddenly feel emptiness gnawing at him. The creativity he buried in his youth reappearing as dissatisfaction or even crisis. Another may find himself haunted by childhood wounds, surfacing in the form of anxiety, depression, or self-doubt, no longer content to stay hidden beneath the surface. These are not random disruptions, but signals that life is pushing him toward wholeness. The shadow is the voice that whispers, "Stop pretending, start living." Spirituality, in its truest sense, is not about bypassing these dark corners of the soul, but about shining a steady light on them until they can be integrated into the whole of who we are. Jung reminded us that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And this wisdom is the key to understanding why facing the shadow is essential for spiritual awakening. When a man chooses to sit with his anger rather than deny it, he may discover it reveals where he has lacked boundaries. When he acknowledges his fear, he may find the courage to trust himself more deeply. When he allows himself to grieve, he may awaken compassion for others who silently carry the same weight. Integration does not mean erasing these traits or emotions, but weaving them into harmony, transforming what once seemed like weakness into profound strength. This stage can feel like chaos, yet it is fertile ground for transformation. The businessman who rediscovers art, the father who learns to cry openly with his children, the leader who admits fear instead of hiding it, each becomes more whole through embracing what was once rejected. Men are often taught to see vulnerability as weakness, but Jungian psychology reveals the opposite. Only by embracing the shadow can one access authentic power. The shadow does not arrive to break us, but to complete us, to remind us that the parts we feared most are also the keys to our deepest growth. What rises from within is not an enemy, but an invitation. The repressed traits, fears, and darker emotions are not obstacles, but hidden teachers urging us to evolve. By facing them with honesty and courage, by allowing them to be integrated rather than silenced, a man steps into the most powerful phase of his life, embodying the essence of spirituality and the true depth of spiritual awakening. 5. Intensified inner conflict. When you begin to experience an intensified inner conflict, it feels as though two opposing forces inside of you are fighting for dominance. The old self that clings to the familiar, and the new self that calls you toward growth. The ego that seeks control, and the deeper self that seeks liberation. This clash can be confusing and exhausting. Yet Carl Jung reminds us that there is no coming to consciousness without pain, and what feels like turmoil is actually the soul's way of burning away illusions so that only truth remains. It is a purification process, like fire refining gold, stripping away the false layers and leaving behind a purer, stronger essence that cannot be broken. In these moments, you may notice your old beliefs, habits, and attachments no longer bring satisfaction. What once felt safe now feels limiting, as if the life you have built is too small for the vastness awakening within you. You find yourself questioning choices that seemed unquestionable before, feeling torn between the comfort of who you were and the mystery of who you are becoming. This tension is the unconscious pressing against the conscious mind, and Jung warned us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. By confronting this conflict, rather than running from it, you begin to transform fate into destiny, taking ownership of your life rather than being driven by hidden forces. The struggle can reveal itself as mood swings, sudden bursts of energy followed by exhaustion, or an unshakable restlessness that no external distraction can soothe. Yet these are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you are no longer willing to live passively. Your soul is demanding awakening, urging you to shed the armor of ego and step fully into your authentic being. Many resist this call by numbing themselves with busyness, but those who embrace it discover a profound inner strength. Think of a seed breaking open in the dark soil. To the seed, it feels like destruction, yet to life, it is the beginning of growth. The cracking you feel within is not an ending, it is your emergence. The paradox is that what looks like disorder is actually the beginning of harmony. Spiritual wisdom teaches that opposites must collide before they can be integrated, and it is in this union that wholeness is born. Jung spoke of this alchemical process where shadow meets light, where masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious merge to create a more complete human being. Remember, you are not than ever before. The conflict is the necessary tension that gives birth to integration, and the fire that feels so consuming is the very force forging your transformation. In truth, this inner battle is one of the most powerful signs that you are stepping into a new phase of life. It is not a curse, but a calling. Not chaos, but a hidden order at work within you. Jung said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. And your turmoil is proof that a new cosmos is being formed inside you. What feels like opposition is actually alignment in disguise, preparing you for clarity, purpose, and freedom far greater than you have ever known. Embrace it with courage, for the clash between your ego and your true self is not breaking you, it is making you whole." If this message about inner conflict resonates with you, remember to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's keep walking together towards sign number 4. 6. Strange dreams. Strange dreams filled with vivid symbols are not random illusions of the night, but powerful messages from the depths of your unconscious, speaking a language your waking mind often resists. Carl Jung once said, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul," reminding us that when these dream images become clearer, stranger, and harder to ignore, they are guiding you toward a greater transformation. These dreams are maps, charting the inner conflict between the life you cling to and the life your soul longs for, and they often reveal truths your conscious mind denies. Think of those nights when you wake up haunted by images that feel more real than reality itself. A train you cannot catch, a door you cannot open, a path you struggle to follow, and notice how they echo your struggles in waking life. The truth is that spirituality and spiritual growth often begin when you pay attention to these whispers of the unconscious. Dreams are mirrors of your shadow, your fears, your potential, and your hidden truths. They may seem strange, but each symbol is a thread weaving into the greater tapestry of who you are becoming. A snake might frighten you in a dream, but in spiritual traditions, it often symbolizes rebirth. Being lost in a city may signal that your waking life is pulling you away from your authentic self. Finding water may show that healing and renewal are close. The more attention you give to these dreams, the more they begin to transform from confusion into clarity, from fear into fuel for your awakening. Spirituality is not only found in meditation or prayer, but also in the language of dreams, where the soul gently but persistently shows you where to go. When strange dreams appear, do not dismiss them as mere fantasy. Write them down, reflect on their symbols, and ask where in your life they might be pointing. These visions are often preparing you for changes your conscious mind cannot yet accept, softening the path toward your next breakthrough. They are not just dreams, but teachers, guiding you into the most powerful phase of your life, reminding you that transformation is already alive within you, and urging you to step into it with awareness and courage. 7. Sacred solitude. Sacred solitude is not loneliness, but a conscious choice to step back from the noise of the world in order to reconnect with your own soul. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And it is in these quiet moments of withdrawal that awakening begins. In the constant rush of modern life, surrounded by demands, responsibilities, and the endless chatter of others, it becomes easy to lose yourself, to live through roles and masks rather than from your true essence. Solitude strips these away, removing the stage and the audience, leaving you face to face with your inner self, asking the questions you often avoid. What do I really want? What wounds am I still carrying? What is my deeper purpose beyond survival and success? In this silence, you rediscover strength. Solitude is the wilderness where the soul speaks clearly, where the distractions of society fade, and where spirituality and spiritual awakening can take root. It may not require mountains or deserts. It can be as simple as turning off your phone, skipping the meaningless social event, or walking in the evening without headphones. These small withdrawals are sacred because they create the space for clarity, honesty, and alignment with your true self. Great visionaries and spiritual leaders have all embraced solitude as preparation for their highest callings. Jesus in the desert, Buddha under the Bodhi tree, and Jung himself in seasons of deep reflection where the unconscious could rise and speak. Their journeys remind us that solitude is not emptiness, but preparation, not escape, but transformation. The man who learns to sit with himself in silence becomes unshakable. He is no longer defined by the validation of others or controlled by the chaos of external voices. In solitude, he faces his shadow, confronts his fears, and cultivates resilience, patience, and authenticity. He learns to trust his inner guide, to hear the whispers of wisdom that are drowned out by the noise of the crowd, and to carry that strength back into his daily life. This is why sacred solitude is a sign that you are stepping into the most powerful phase of your life, a phase where you live less for applause and more from truth, less for survival, and more for meaning. To embrace it is to claim the strength of stillness, the wisdom of silence, and the courage of authenticity. For only in solitude does the true voice of the soul emerge, and once heard, it can never again be silenced. If the idea of sacred solitude speaks to you, comment, "I agree." If you see it differently, share your thoughts by commenting, "I don't think so." Let's hear your voice. 8. Loss of motivation. Loss of motivation may seem frightening at first, but in the language of spiritual wisdom and the insights of Carl Jung, it is not a sign of weakness, but a powerful signal that your inner life is shifting. The goals that once gave you energy and direction no longer feel alive because they have served their purpose, and your soul is now pausing to prepare you for a deeper and more authentic calling. Jung reminds us, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And this moment of emptiness is an awakening, a sacred pause that is clearing away what is false so you can step into something true. When the old ambitions lose their meaning, you are being gently pulled away from illusions created by ego and society and guided toward the deeper path of individuation, where you discover the self that has been waiting beneath the noise of external validation. This loss of drive is not a failure. It is a form of protection. Your unconscious mind refuses to waste energy on pursuits that no longer resonate with the person you are becoming. It is like standing in a fog where all the signs have disappeared, and though uncertainty feels uncomfortable, the fog is a veil hiding the outline of a greater landscape you are not yet ready to see. Carl Jung taught that transformation often comes disguised as withdrawal, apathy, or disinterest, because the old identity must fall apart before a new one can take shape. Think of how often you have reached a goal only to feel the joy vanish quickly. That fading was your soul whispering that you were chasing an image, not your true calling. Spiritual wisdom shows us that every pause is preparation. The silence that comes with losing motivation is not emptiness, but the fertile soil of new beginnings. Rumi wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul, even when winter feels endless. For it is in the silence of winter that spring is prepared. This season of stillness is your winter. And though society may push you to keep hustling, true growth requires honoring the rhythm of your inner world. When you stop forcing yourself to chase what no longer excites you, you create space for authentic desires to rise from within, desires rooted in meaning rather than performance. If you are experiencing this loss right now, it means your soul is clearing away the distractions so that you can align with something far greater than surface-level success. The pause is your soul's way of dimming the lights, changing the scenery, and preparing you for the next act of your life. Losing motivation is not the end. It is the quiet beginning of a new and more powerful phase, one where you are no longer defined by what you achieve, but by who you truly are. Trust this stage because it is not a breakdown, it is a breakthrough. It is not emptiness, it is gestation. It is not your downfall, it is your rebirth. And as Carl Jung so often revealed, the soul knows the way, even when the mind feels lost. 9. Rejecting old success. You begin to realize that the kind of success society glorifies, titles, possessions, and applause, no longer defines you. Because deep within, your soul starts to hunger for something far greater. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And when you awaken, you understand that success is not about accumulation, but about depth, peace, and authenticity. The excitement of chasing after recognition slowly fades, and instead, you are drawn to the quiet joy of living in alignment with your true self. This is not failure, but courage, because it takes strength to step away from the crowd's expectations and embrace a vision of success that cannot be measured in numbers or trophies. Picture the professional who has spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder, acquiring the promotions and the luxury lifestyle, only to sit in silence at night feeling empty and restless. That hollow ache is not a sign of defeat. It is a sign of awakening. It is your spirit whispering that life is meant to be more than endless striving. That fulfillment is found not in more, but in meaning. You begin asking questions that cut deeper than any resume. What truly brings me peace? What makes me feel whole? What can I create that will outlive applause? And as you lean into these questions, you discover that true success is found in the laughter shared with loved ones, the serenity of a heart at rest, the courage to live authentically, and the contribution you make to the world from a place of truth. In spirituality, this is the turning point of spiritual growth. The moment when the ego, once addicted to competition and external praise, begins to give way to the higher self that values integrity, stillness, and authenticity. You stop living for society's deadlines and start moving by soul time, where each moment is measured by wisdom, kindness, and inner freedom. Jung believed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And by rejecting the shallow definition of success, you are embracing that privilege fully. The lessons here are simple yet profound. Never mistake noise for fulfillment. Never let culture dictate your worth. And always remember that peace is the highest form of power. When you reach this stage, wealth becomes inner freedom. Influence becomes the ability to touch another's heart. And victory becomes the courage to be real even when misunderstood. This is spirituality in its purest form, not an escape from life, but the truest way of living it. A call to measure success, not by what you have, but by who you become. If this message about rejecting old success resonates with you, comment below. I'm ready for new beginnings. Your words let us know you're walking this path with us. 10. Return of childhood memories. Childhood memories have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them, carrying with them both the joy of innocence and the ache of wounds long buried. And when they appear in this season of your life, it is not by chance, but as a sign that your soul is calling you back to your essence. The laughter of running barefoot in the summer grass, the thrill of chasing fireflies, the quiet wonder of painting or building something with your hands. All these passions you once carried without fear or doubt return to remind you of who you truly are beneath the roles and responsibilities that adulthood demanded. Spirituality teaches that these flashes of memory are not just nostalgia. They are messages from the unconscious, urging you to remember the man you were before the world pressed its expectations on your shoulders. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And when childhood passions and wounds resurface, they are asking you to do just that, to embrace every fragment of yourself so you can move forward whole. At the same time, childhood wounds reappear not to torment, but to guide you into healing. The sting of a harsh word from a parent, the loneliness of being misunderstood, the fear of not being good enough. These hidden scars still echo in your present life when you find yourself overreacting to criticism or doubting your worth despite all you have achieved. Jung's wisdom reminds us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this return of memory is your invitation to break free from the old fate you once thought unchangeable. Spiritual awakening is not only about light, but also about facing the shadows. And when you meet these memories with compassion instead of resistance, you loosen the grip of patterns that have silently shaped your path for years. To revisit childhood is like opening a sacred album where every image is alive with meaning. Joy that was pure, pain that was real, and a spirit that was unbroken. Spirituality calls you to hold these memories tenderly because within them lies the blueprint of your authentic self. The boy who once dreamed, laughed, and cried still lives within you, and his voice is not a ghost, but a guide. By honoring his joy, you reclaim the creativity and freedom that responsibilities may have muted. By embracing his wounds, you uncover the strength and resilience that were forged in silence. This merging of innocence with wisdom, of past with present, prepares you for the most powerful phase of your life, where your strength no longer comes from denial or suppression, but from integration. Carl Jung believed that true maturity comes only when a man reconnects with his inner child, because that is where his soul first spoke its truth. The return of childhood memories is therefore not regression. It is initiation, a passage into spiritual awakening where the fragmented self becomes whole. In this reunion with your beginnings, you find not just who you were, but who you are meant to become, stepping into a deeper authenticity that radiates wisdom, courage, and power, carrying you into the next chapter of life, not as a man divided, but as a man complete. 11. Connection to something greater. When you begin to feel a connection to something greater than yourself, it is not an illusion, but a profound stage of spiritual awakening that Carl Jung described as recognizing a deeper intelligence guiding life. It is the moment when you realize you are not a separate fragment, but part of a vast living whole, where every joy, challenge, and unexpected event becomes a thread in a divine pattern. As Rumi said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop," reminding you that your soul carries the essence of the universe itself. This awareness transforms how you see life. Suddenly, even small moments, like a sunrise or the rustle of leaves, hold meaning and point to a sacred design. Jung called this the numinous, the presence that cannot be explained by reason but can only be felt by the heart. And he taught that synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences, shows us that chaos is an illusion and order is everywhere if we have the eyes to see. In this state, you may feel drawn to silence, prayer, meditation, or simply listening to your own heart, because these practices open you to the wisdom that has always been within. Spiritual wisdom reveals that this connection is not something you need to search for outside yourself. It has been waiting all along for you to recognize it. Even the pain and struggles you once resented now appear as lessons that shaped your awareness and opened you to truth. Jung often said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," and once you accept this, your suffering turns into strength, clarity, and compassion. You begin to live not as a victim of life, but as someone who trusts in its greater rhythm, surrendering control, yet discovering a power deeper than anything the ego could grasp. You see that you are both the traveler and the path, both the question and the answer. And this realization gives you the humility to walk with gratitude and the courage to live with trust. The recognition of something greater does not remove all difficulties, but it gives you an unshakable foundation. You are part of a living current that can never be broken. With this knowledge, you enter the most powerful phase of your life, where every breath and every moment carries meaning, and where you walk forward with confidence, guided by the spiritual wisdom that Carl Jung believed was the essence of true awakening. Stay connected to something greater by joining our community here on Spiritual Wisdom. Subscribe to our channel, where we share insights from Carl Jung and spiritual wisdom that guide you toward oneness with life and the deeper intelligence moving through it. 12. Loss of fear of suffering. When you arrive at the stage where fear of suffering no longer controls you, life begins to open in extraordinary ways, because pain is no longer seen as an enemy, but as a sacred messenger, guiding you toward deeper wisdom and lasting spiritual growth. Carl Jung wisely said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain," reminding us that suffering is not a punishment, but a necessary passage into greater awareness. Each hardship you face carries within it a hidden seed of transformation, and only when you dare to meet suffering directly do you unlock that seed, allowing it to grow into strength, compassion, and clarity. Instead of asking, "Why me?" when challenges come, you begin to see that the storms of life are shaping you, sanding away what no longer serves, and forging you into someone capable of holding more light. Every wound becomes a lesson, every loss becomes a teacher, and every struggle becomes an opportunity to discover just how resilient your spirit truly is. As this understanding deepens, you notice a quiet shift in the way you walk through life. Situations that once overwhelmed you lose their power. Fears that once paralyzed you dissolve into acceptance, and you begin to carry yourself with an inner confidence born not of avoiding struggle, but of having endured it and found meaning within it. You no longer shrink back from challenges, but face them with an open heart, knowing they are polishing your soul. Jung also said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another," reminding us that the shape of your suffering is uniquely designed for your growth, and no one else's path can mirror yours. With this realization, comparison fades and reverence for your own journey arises, even in the darkest hours. The lesson is not to glorify pain, but to embrace the truth that when suffering appears, as it inevitably does in the human experience, you have the power to alchemize it into wisdom and strength. You can allow pain to harden your heart, or you can allow it to soften you into deeper compassion. You can let it trap you in fear, or you can let it teach you courage. The choice is always yours. To lose the fear of suffering is to step into true spirituality, for you begin to see that every shadow holds light within it. Every tear carries the potential of awakening, and every trial can become a doorway into a higher self. In this phase, you understand that life is not happening against you, but through you, guiding you to evolve into the strongest, most conscious, and most awakened version of who you were meant to be. 13. Creative urge emerges. A creative urge that rises from deep within is not just a fleeting desire, but a sacred compulsion to express your inner truth in ways that words alone cannot contain. And this urge often becomes the clearest sign that you are entering a powerful new phase of spiritual awakening where your soul refuses to remain hidden any longer. It moves through you like fire, restless and alive, stirring ideas in the middle of the night, calling you to paint, to write, to compose, to build, or even to transform the way you live each ordinary day. And this is not about seeking approval or perfection, but about giving form to the voice of your authentic self that has long been silenced by fear and conformity. Jung believed that creativity was not a luxury, but a vital step in individuation, the integration of your unconscious and conscious self. And when you answer this call, you are not simply making art, you are healing, becoming whole, and allowing your soul to shine through every action you take. This inner compulsion can feel overwhelming, as though something larger than yourself is moving through you. Yet it is also liberating because it proves you are no longer content with living in the shadows of other people's expectations. Think of the great breakthroughs in history. Einstein spoke of his discoveries as music of the spheres, intuition flowing like art rather than equations. And in the same way, your creative urge is a channel for spiritual wisdom that transcends logic and connects you with the collective unconscious, that vast field of archetypes and symbols that binds humanity together. You may feel suddenly drawn to start writing your life story, to shift careers into something meaningful, or to pour love into simple acts like cooking, gardening, or designing your space. And in every instance, creation becomes sacred because it reflects your awakening spirit. Yet with this gift comes a test. For true creativity demands that you shed the masks that society has placed upon you and dare to show yourself as you are. To paint your vision, to sing your song, or to tell your story is to step into vulnerability, and others may not understand the depths of what you reveal. But this courage to be seen is what makes the urge so transformative. Spirituality is not about escaping the world, but about embodying your truth in it. And your creativity is the purest instrument of that embodiment, a bridge between the invisible essence within you and the visible reality you are shaping around you. So when this restless force rises inside you, know it is not a distraction, but a sacred calling to step into your full power. For the world does not need more perfection. It needs authenticity. And your urge to create is proof that your soul has reached a new stage of freedom. Whether it shows itself in words, music, movement, invention, or the way you live each day with love and purpose, honor it, nurture it, and give it room to grow. Because through it, you are not only awakening yourself, but also awakening something greater in the world around you. If you find this content touching your heart, please consider becoming a member to receive more in-depth lessons and direct support from me. 14. Old relationships fall away. When old relationships begin to fade away, it may feel unsettling, almost like losing a part of yourself. Yet this is a sacred sign that your soul is rising into a higher stage of growth. Carl Jung wisely said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate," reminding us that many of the bonds we once held close were rooted not in truth, but in ego, illusion, or the comfort of not being alone. Spiritual wisdom shows us that relationships act as mirrors, and when you enter a phase of spiritual awakening, those mirrors that once reflected illusions begin to shatter, leaving you face to face with what is real. Friends who once felt essential may now feel distant. Conversations that once thrilled you may now seem hollow. And ties built on status, shared pain, or convenience quietly dissolve. This is not abandonment, but evolution. A clearing of space for connections that honor your soul instead of your mask. Like trees shedding their leaves in autumn, letting go is not a punishment, but a preparation for new growth. And though this shedding can bring loneliness, it also creates the fertile soil for authentic, soul-aligned relationships to enter. Rumi captured this truth when he wrote, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul, for God has hidden gifts in every transformation." In this solitude, you begin to attract those who recognize your essence rather than your appearance, who value your authenticity more than your performance, who encourage your spirit instead of draining it. These connections do not come by accident. They appear at the precise moment when you are ready to walk in deeper truth. Yet this process requires immense courage, for the ego clings to the familiar even when it no longer serves you. Jung revealed, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. If you remain trapped in old ties that keep you small, you prevent yourself from experiencing the alchemy of transformation. Thus, when doors close and people walk away, it is not rejection. It is the universe gently pushing you toward your next chapter. A chapter where authenticity replaces illusion. The true spiritual wisdom is this: your task is not to chase, to fix, or to beg people to stay, but to surrender and trust that what leaves was never meant to endure, and what remains is pure, enduring, and real. The most powerful phase of your life is not marked by having more people, but by having the right ones. Those who speak the language of your soul, who inspire your growth, and who remind you that you are never truly walking alone. Every fading bond is the clearing of space. Every silence is an initiation, and every new connection that enters after the shedding carries the profound promise of alignment. In this way, the falling away of old relationships is not an ending, but a sacred beginning, guiding you closer to your highest self and to the companions destined to walk beside you on this journey of awakening. 15. Acceptance of imperfection. You begin to sense that the most powerful phase of your life unfolds the moment you stop demanding perfection from yourself and start embracing the wholeness of who you are. Because true strength is not found in flawlessness, but in the harmony of light and shadow within you. Carl Jung expressed this truth when he said, "I would rather be whole than good," reminding us that real spirituality and spiritual growth are never about chasing an impossible ideal, but about honoring every part of our being, even the broken and messy pieces we once tried to hide. When you accept imperfection, you no longer live in the exhausting cycle of criticism and comparison, and instead, you ask deeper questions. What is this moment teaching me? How is this mistake shaping me into someone wiser, kinder, more resilient? Suddenly, every scar becomes a story of survival. Every weakness transforms into a lesson, and every failure becomes the soil from which compassion and understanding grow. This shift also softens the way you see others, because when you release the harsh judgment of yourself, you can no longer hold others hostage to unrealistic standards, and you begin to notice their humanity with tenderness rather than criticism. Spirituality opens your eyes to the truth that we are all fellow travelers, carrying a mixture of brilliance and brokenness. And when you can embrace your own shadow, you naturally learn to honor the shadows of others. This is the freedom of authenticity, a freedom that no longer fears exposure, for you understand that vulnerability is not weakness, but the gateway to intimacy, connection, and wisdom. Jung reminded us that there is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. And when you grasp this truth, you stop trying to cut out pieces of yourself and instead learn to weave them into a greater pattern of balance. The acceptance of imperfection is not surrender, but liberation, because it allows you to grow from truth rather than illusion. And it teaches you to forgive yourself quickly, to smile at your mistakes, to treat setbacks as stepping stones rather than walls. You begin to see failure as feedback, not as a verdict, and you discover that every misstep carries hidden gold. Think of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with veins of gold, where the cracks do not ruin the vessel, but make it even more precious. Your flaws are the golden lines that make your soul more radiant, your life more meaningful, and your journey more inspiring. To accept imperfection is to release the burden of masks and to step boldly into the wholeness of your being. And in doing so, you radiate a quiet power that draws others into their own healing. This is the lesson. When you stop striving to be flawless and instead honor your humanity, you step into a phase of spiritual growth where authenticity replaces fear, wholeness replaces shame, and your very existence becomes proof that the cracks in you were never your weakness, but the openings through which your light shines. If this message about accepting imperfection has touched your heart, write in the comments, "I embrace my flaws, for they make me whole." Let this be your declaration of growth today. 16. Creative longing deepens. When your creative longing deepens, you no longer create for applause, approval, or recognition. You create because your soul cannot remain silent. This is not about proving yourself to the world, but about allowing truth to overflow from within you and take form in words, art, or action. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And in this phase of spiritual awakening, creativity becomes the most natural expression of that truth. What flows from you is no longer shaped by trends or the need to be accepted. It is guided by an inner wisdom that carries its own light, a light that resonates with others because it comes from authenticity rather than performance. The act of creation itself becomes sacred, like a prayer in motion, and even the smallest expression feels infused with meaning. A painting, a story, a melody, or even a conversation transforms into a vessel of truth. You are no longer concerned with whether others approve, because you understand that the value of your work is not measured by applause, but by the alignment between your spirit and your expression. Just as a river does not question whether it flows correctly, your creativity simply moves forward with its natural current, nourishing everything along its path. The more you surrender to it, the more you realize that creation is not separate from life. It is life revealing itself through you. This longing also carries a restlessness, a fire that refuses to let you settle for mediocrity. Ideas may flood your mind late at night. Dreams may whisper visions into your heart, and you feel compelled to bring them into reality. Resisting this call only intensifies the pull. because creativity at this stage is not a pastime. It is the divine energy of life seeking expression through you. Spirituality reminds us that every human being is inherently creative. And when this longing awakens, it reveals that every choice you make about how you live, love, speak, and build can become a form of art. To ignore it is to ignore the very heartbeat of your soul. What makes this longing transformative is that it heals. When you write from honesty, another soul recognizes itself in your words. When you paint from raw emotion, someone else feels understood in their own struggle. When you speak from sincerity, hearts open because they recognize truth. In this way, your creativity becomes more than self-expression. It becomes a bridge that connects people to themselves and to one another. External approval loses its grip on you because the greatest validation comes from knowing you are aligned with your authentic self. And in that alignment, your work carries a power that cannot be diminished. To create from this place is to embody freedom. It is to recognize that your soul's truth does not require permission to exist. The longing itself is proof that you are entering a powerful phase of spiritual awakening, one where your inner life and outer expression merge into harmony. Creativity becomes not only what you do, but who you are, and through it, you reveal the fullness of your being. 17. Living your truth. Living your truth means reaching a stage where radical authenticity takes over, and you can no longer betray your inner reality, no matter what the consequences might be. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you begin to embody this, you realize that wearing masks to satisfy others or hiding parts of yourself to fit into expectations becomes impossible. Spiritual wisdom pushes you to align your actions with your soul. And while this may feel frightening because it risks disapproval, rejection, or even loss, it also brings a profound sense of peace that no external approval can match. Jung also reminded us that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And in living your truth, you begin to see that what once seemed terrifying now becomes the foundation of your deepest strength. The cost of betraying yourself becomes too heavy to carry, and compromises that once seemed tolerable now feel like chains. You may think of all the ways people bend themselves into shapes that do not fit working jobs they despise, staying in relationships that suffocate their spirit, or silencing their voice for fear of judgment. But in the powerful phase of spiritual awakening, those patterns collapse because dishonesty to the soul feels unbearable, while even the smallest act of truth-telling feels like freedom. Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And when you step into truth, you begin to see that authenticity is not just honesty. It is the integration of your hidden self, the emergence of your full being into the light. Living with authenticity does not mean life becomes easier, but it does mean it becomes real. You may face resistance, criticism, or misunderstanding from others, but spirituality teaches us that truth always liberates, even when it disrupts. You will lose some people along the way, yet the ones who remain will stay because of who you are, not who you pretended to be. The masks you shed may leave you feeling vulnerable, but they also uncover your greatest strength, because power is not found in conformity, but in integrity. No success, wealth, or recognition can replace the quiet satisfaction of lying down at night knowing you honored your soul that day. Jung's spiritual wisdom reveals that living your truth is not optional if you want to reach your most powerful self, because false identities drain energy while authenticity restores it. Yes, authenticity is risky, but it is the only path to real freedom. It strips away illusions and replaces them with courage, forcing you to face the unknown with faith and trust that life supports those who refuse to abandon themselves. Jung beautifully said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases, reminding you that your life is not meant to be measured against another's standard. When you embrace this truth, you stop apologizing for who you are and step into the life you were always meant to live, where authenticity itself becomes your greatest source of power. 18. Inner peace, independent of circumstances. When you arrive at the place of inner peace that is independent of circumstances, you step into one of the clearest signs that your life is moving into its most powerful phase, because your calm no longer depends on the noise of the world, but flows from the depth of your own being, steady and unshakable. There was a time when outside events, the moods of others, or sudden changes would pull you in every direction. But now, something within you has matured, and you are no longer carried away by every storm. You have touched the ground of stillness inside, the silent core that cannot be disturbed. And this is where spirituality reveals its deepest meaning, because spirituality is not an escape from life's struggles, but the ability to walk through them without losing your center. Carl Jung once reminded us, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And when you embrace this kind of peace, you embody that wisdom, for you are no longer chained to past pain, nor trapped by outside conditions. Instead, you choose serenity as a way of being, and that choice itself is freedom. This is what true spiritual growth looks like, not in how much you achieve or how others judge you, but in how deeply you can remain whole and calm even when life appears uncertain. You begin to notice that your relationships shift, because when others expect you to react to their anger or chaos, you remain steady. Your presence becomes like a flame that does not flicker in the wind, and people either feel inspired by your strength or unsettled by their own restlessness and comparison. Yet none of that disturbs you. You also begin to see success and failure differently, for they no longer define your worth. Whether the world praises you or forgets you, whether you rise or stumble, you remain complete within yourself. This gives you the courage to take risks, to be authentic, to live aligned with what matters most without the fear of losing approval. In everyday life, this peace shows itself quietly but powerfully. You stand patiently in long waits without agitation. You face financial or emotional challenges without collapsing. You hear criticism without letting it cut into your soul. And you wake each morning with the knowing that peace is not something you must chase, but something you already hold. This is the essence of spirituality in practice, not just belief, but a living state of trust, surrender, and connection to the deeper intelligence guiding life. And the lesson that emerges is timeless. Real power is not in controlling what is outside you, but in mastering what is within you. True freedom is choosing peace when fear comes, choosing wholeness when the world seems fractured, choosing to remember that happiness is not given or taken away by circumstances, but is your natural state anchored in the soul. In this place, spiritual growth becomes a journey of returning again and again to the center of stillness. And from that center, you live with freedom, clarity, and a radiant calm that nothing outside of you can ever destroy. As we've explored together, these 18 signs are not just abstract ideas, but real markers that show you are stepping into the most powerful and transformative phase of your life. Carl Jung reminds us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And this wisdom calls us to live with awareness, courage, and authenticity. Every challenge, every shift, and every breakthrough you experience is an invitation to rise higher and embrace your true potential. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these signs resonates most with you right now? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue this journey of growth and awakening together. Thank you for watching Spiritual Wisdom. And remember, the power to shape your future is already within you. This is how your body secretly knows it's the right person. The body never lies. Martha Graham. Have you ever wondered why you feel an instant sense of calm or unease when you meet someone, even before your mind has time to analyze it? Today on Spiritual Wisdom, we're exploring Carl Jung's surprising truth about how your body secretly knows when it's the right person. As you listen, I invite you to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever felt this hidden knowing within yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your story might inspire someone else on their journey to personal growth and happiness. 1. The body knows before the mind. Your body carries an ancient wisdom that speaks long before your conscious mind can form an opinion. And in moments of true connection, this wisdom reveals itself with unmistakable clarity. When you are with someone who is aligned with your spirit, you notice how your breathing naturally slows and deepens. Your shoulders loosen, and your entire being feels light, safe, and at ease without effort. This is more than comfort. It is the silent recognition of resonance, the soul's way of saying that you are standing in the right presence. Spirituality and spiritual awakening remind us that this ease is not ordinary. It is the body echoing the truth that cannot be put into words. Yet this wisdom does not only guide you toward what is right, it also warns you when something is wrong. You may meet someone who seems perfect by every rational measure, yet your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy, or your breath shortens around them. These signals are not accidents. They are sacred alarms that your spirit sets off to protect you from misalignment disguised as compatibility. Carl Jung believed the unconscious often reveals itself through bodily reactions, and these reactions are not to be dismissed. In spiritual awakening, discomfort is not a flaw in you. It is clarity rising from within, urging you to honor the truth of your energy. Think about the times you silenced these signals because logic convinced you otherwise. when you stayed in a relationship that looked right to others, but always left you feeling restless or uneasy inside. That tension was your body's way of telling you something essential was missing, even if your mind tried to justify staying. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that real love is not measured by appearances or achievements. It is measured by the peace, vitality, and freedom you feel in your body when you are with someone. When your nervous system feels calm enough to rest, when your spirit expands instead of contracts, that is love aligned with your highest self. Jung's surprising truth is that the body is often the first to know what the mind takes longer to accept. And this is why people speak of gut instincts or heart knowing. These are not vague feelings, but profound signals that reflect the language of truth your spirit speaks through your body. Spirituality reminds us that awakening is not about leaving the body behind, but about embracing its messages. Because the body is not a barrier to the soul, it is the soul's instrument. When you learn to trust these signals, you step beyond illusions of perfection and move toward authentic connection that nourishes your inner growth. Every tightening, every breath, every wave of ease or unease is your body's way of guiding you on the path of love and truth. Spiritual awakening deepens when you no longer ignore these signals, but allow them to shape your choices. Because in every sacred whisper of comfort or discomfort, your body reveals the hidden truth of alignment. Trust it, for it is through the body that the soul speaks first, long before the mind is ready to listen. Have you ever felt your body warning or guiding you before your mind could explain it? If yes, share your story in the comments so others can learn from your experience. If not, simply comment, "I will listen to my body," and let's explore this hidden wisdom together. 2. Collective unconscious and somatic awareness. Carl Jung believed that the body carries the collective unconscious, a reservoir of spiritual wisdom shared by all humanity. And this ancient knowledge often expresses itself through the subtle sensations we feel in our bodies. Your nervous system is constantly processing cues that go far beyond words. The tone of someone's voice, the flicker of a micro-expression, the energy that surrounds them, and from these signals, it forms instinctive reactions that reveal truths you might not consciously recognize. That is why you may meet someone who appears perfect in every logical sense, yet your stomach tightens, your breath shortens, and something within you resists, while with another person, you feel an unexplainable ease, as though your very soul has recognized theirs before your mind had time to think. These responses are not accidents. They are signs of deeper alignment or dissonance, the body's way of guiding you toward or away from certain connections. The wisdom of the body speaks in a language older than thought, and Jung's insights remind us that our instincts are gateways into the unconscious, helping us sense authenticity long before rational analysis begins. When your body relaxes in someone's presence, when your shoulders drop and your breath becomes steady, it is a sign of resonance, a message that you are safe and connected on a soul level. When tension rises, when you feel a weight pressing down, or an inexplicable anxiety stirring, your unconscious is warning you of a mismatch, protecting you from an illusion that reason alone might fail to detect. Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, Both are transformed, and your body often knows this potential for transformation long before your conscious mind does. Most people are taught to trust the rational mind, to create lists of desirable traits, and to evaluate relationships with logic. But true spiritual awakening invites you to listen more deeply to your inner signals. The body, far from being a passive vessel, is a living compass that directs you toward what is genuine and away from what is false. These embodied reactions connect you to the collective unconscious, to the timeless flow of human memory and wisdom that transcends personal experience. By paying attention to your physical responses, you access a hidden intelligence that helps you distinguish between what merely appears right and what truly resonates with your essence. Your task is to notice and honor these signs, to trust the voice that does not use words. When your body expands with warmth and calm in someone's presence, it is telling you that this connection nurtures your being. When it contracts into tension or unease, it signals that something is misaligned with your path. This is not superstition, but a profound psychological truth rooted in both Carl Jung's teachings and the spiritual wisdom of countless traditions. As Rumi wrote, "There is a voice that doesn't use words." Listen. Your body is that voice. And when you listen, you allow yourself to move closer to the relationships that elevate your soul and awaken the deepest truths within you. 3. True connection versus shadow projection. A true connection reveals itself not in chaos, but in calm recognition, ease, and a deep peace that quietly settles over you, a kind of inner stillness that lets you know you are safe. When it is right, your body speaks a language that is older and wiser than the mind, showing you through relaxed breath, steady heartbeat, and grounded presence that you are where you belong. Carl Jung understood this as the authentic signal of compatibility. Love that nourishes rather than consumes. Love that steadies you instead of leaving you restless. As Rumi beautifully said, the soul has been given its own ears to hear things the mind does not understand. And when you are aligned with the right person, every fiber of your being resonates with that truth, not through dramatic intensity, but through quiet assurance that this is a safe and sacred bond. By contrast, overwhelming chemistry, anxious obsession, or magnetic pulls that feel addictive are often signs of shadow projection, where you are not truly in love with the person before you, but with the parts of yourself you have long repressed or denied. Jung explained that what we bury in the unconscious eventually surfaces in the form of projection, and so these intense attractions often carry the weight of unresolved wounds or unmet childhood needs. You might mistake the rush for destiny, but beneath it lies the psyche's attempt to heal itself by reenacting old pain. If you felt unseen as a child, you may be drawn to someone who withholds affection. If you carry shame, you may be magnetized by someone who reflects it back to you. These are not signs of soul alignment, but signals that deeper healing is needed within. Because as Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The danger is that such shadow-driven connections masquerade as love, promising fulfillment, yet delivering cycles of confusion and heartbreak. They may feel like twin flames, irresistible and all-consuming, yet they only recreate patterns that keep you trapped in longing and self-abandonment. Spiritual growth requires the courage to see through the illusion and to trust your body's wisdom over your mind's stories. The body knows the difference because real love makes you feel lighter rather than heavier, freer rather than confined, whole rather than fractured. When the connection is true, it will not drain your energy, but replenish it. It will not shrink your spirit, but expand it. And it will not pull you into desperation, but guide you into peace. The lesson for your journey is clear. Do not confuse intensity with intimacy or chemistry with compatibility. Spirituality teaches that true love is not about burning passion that leaves ashes behind, but about steady warmth that sustains and uplifts. The right person will not ask you to lose yourself, but will help you find yourself more deeply, and the relationship will become a sanctuary for growth, healing, and joy. Trust the quiet signals of your body, for they are the truest compass toward love that is not just exciting to the mind, but nourishing to the soul. Let this truth guide you in love and connection, choosing what is real and not just a shadow. Comment below "true connection" to affirm your journey, and consider subscribing with the notification bell so we can walk together in spiritual wisdom. 4. False positives, trauma bonds. Your body often responds before your mind has time to think. But when old wounds linger, it can confuse the familiarity of pain with the depth of love. This is the deceptive nature of false positives, or trauma bonds, where the nervous system recalls what it has known in the past and mistakes it for intimacy. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And nowhere is this more evident than in relationships that feel electrifying yet leave you unsettled. The rush of attraction, the dizzying spark, the feeling that someone is irresistibly important can be less about genuine connection and more about your body replaying unresolved stories. That heightened chemistry is often a reflection of old patterns, unpredictable moods, inconsistent affection, the cycle of tension and relief that once defined survival and now masquerade as passion. In the glow of this illusion, the mind interprets the racing heart and the tightening stomach as signs of love, when in truth, they are echoes of trauma disguised as desire. Such connections often burn brightly at the start, consuming your attention, disrupting your sleep, and convincing you that this intensity must be destiny. Yet as days unfold, the intensity turns into imbalance. Energy drains, boundaries blur, joy feels conditional, and your inner peace slips further away. What felt intoxicating at first becomes exhausting, leaving you trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment. The body craves resolution, so it seeks out what is familiar, even when it hurts, creating a loop that leaves you mistaking volatility for love. But the same body that is drawn to these patterns can also be trained to recognize truth. A safe and genuine connection does not leave you breathless with anxiety, but allows your breath to deepen, your muscles to release, and your mind to rest. Safety is not dullness. It is the quiet brilliance of being fully seen, valued, and free to exist without shrinking. Through spirituality and spiritual awakening, you begin to hear your body in a new way, recognizing that real love does not demand you sacrifice your dignity or constantly negotiate for respect. The body's wisdom becomes clear when you slow down, listen, and give yourself permission to choose peace over chaos. True intimacy is marked not by overwhelming highs and lows, but by steady presence, consistent care, and genuine curiosity. These green flags of respect, honesty, accountability, and tenderness teach your nervous system a new rhythm, one where love expands instead of contracts, where joy is natural rather than conditional, and where you can rest in the certainty that you are cherished without needing to prove your worth. In this way, what once felt like fate loses its grip, and what once felt unfamiliar calm, stability, mutual growth becomes the very foundation of love that heals rather than love that harms. 5. Authentic compatibility and synchronicity. Carl Jung described the feeling of being with the right person as the homecoming, a state where your body exhales deeply, your spirit relaxes, and you no longer feel the need to perform or protect yourself. It is not an illusion of the mind, but a reality your body recognizes first, a quiet knowing that you are safe, aligned, and seen. When you find such a connection, breathing falls into rhythm, as if two souls are sharing the same hidden music. Silence becomes soothing rather than awkward, and presence feels effortless instead of heavy. This is not chance, but synchronicity, what Jung called the mysterious language of the universe, where inner truth and outer reality merge in a way that cannot be denied. The signs of authentic compatibility reveal themselves in subtle ways that are easy to overlook, yet deeply powerful. The comfort of shared silence shows that you do not need constant words to prove your value, for simply being together is enough. Natural eye contact flows without resistance, not as a performance, but as recognition, as if you have known each other before across time and space. Jung explained that these moments are guided by archetypes within the collective unconscious, patterns older than language that draw two people together when their souls are ready. Your body responds to this familiarity by softening its defenses, allowing you to feel both safe and alive at the same time, which is the essence of true intimacy. Unlike fleeting passion that burns bright and fades quickly, these connections create vitality and harmony that endure. Love rooted only in desire can excite the senses, but often leaves the spirit restless, while love rooted in synchronicity heals, strengthens, and brings wholeness over the years. Jung believed that transformation occurs when two authentic personalities meet. For as he said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Modern psychology now confirms this truth, showing that genuine compatibility lowers stress, improves health, and even extends life, reminding us that real love is medicine for the soul as much as for the body. When your breath deepens in their presence, when silence feels nourishing, when your eyes meet with ease and you feel recognized rather than judged, your body is speaking with spiritual wisdom, telling you that this is the right person. It is not something you can manufacture with logic or lists of qualities, for authentic compatibility emerges naturally and cannot be forced. The body knows long before the mind accepts, whispering what the soul has always known, that home is not a place, but a presence. And when you honor that knowing, you step into the kind of connection that brings healing, harmony, and a love that aligns with the deepest truths of your being. As we uncover the truth of authentic compatibility and synchronicity, let's honor the wisdom of our bodies that speaks louder than logic. Your presence here shows you're seeking deeper connection, not surface illusions. Leave a comment. I trust my body's wisdom, to guide me to the right person as a declaration of your journey into spiritual wisdom and Carl Jung's insight. And let's continue walking this path together. 6. Integration and healing in true love. Even authentic love can stir resistance within you, because when someone truly safe and genuine enters your life, your body begins to reorganize itself for deeper safety and intimacy. And this shift can feel unfamiliar or even overwhelming. At first, your nervous system may struggle to adjust, and you may notice temporary anxiety, fatigue, or physical symptoms that seem to appear without reason. This does not mean love is wrong for you. It means your inner world is recalibrating, learning to accept closeness while releasing the protective barriers you once built to shield yourself from pain. Carl Jung wisely said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this truth reminds you that much of your resistance comes from old wounds stored deep within your body, now rising to the surface so they can finally be healed. When you lean into authentic love, spirituality teaches that healing often comes disguised as discomfort, because real transformation asks you to confront what you have hidden. The very presence of a true connection invites your body and soul to let go of fear and to embrace a new reality where trust, vulnerability, and closeness are possible. This may feel like chaos at first, but it is the beginning of order. As your nervous system adjusts, you may feel restless or even exhausted. Yet these sensations are signs that something powerful is unfolding. Your spirit is expanding, and your body is making space for deeper love. Spiritual growth is never about avoiding the hard moments. It is about using them as gateways to freedom, because each wave of discomfort carries within it the seed of renewal. Over time, as love settles in and your body learns that intimacy can be safe, you begin to feel its healing power in every part of your life. True connection not only strengthens your health and emotional resilience, but also awakens a freedom within you that no outside force can easily disturb. You begin to notice that your breath feels lighter, your presence feels calmer, and your heart carries a quiet strength. This is integration of the alignment of mind, body, and spirit into a state of harmony where authentic intimacy can thrive. Love, then, is not just romance, but a process of becoming whole, a sacred path that reshapes you into a stronger and freer version of yourself. And when you allow love to guide you in this way, it transforms from a feeling into a profound force of healing, teaching you that resistance is not a barrier, but an invitation to grow into the fullness of who you are meant to be. 7. The final truth. Drama, obsession, and chaos are not the marks of love. They are the echoes of wounds still unhealed, the restless shadows of what we mistake for passion, but is only confusion wearing a mask. The body, however, never lies. When it meets the right person, it does not tremble with fear or tighten with doubt. It softens, it breathes, it recognizes. Peace, ease, and embodied belonging become the true signal, a quiet knowing that whispers to you, "Here, you are safe. Here, you can be authentic. Here, you are free." Carl Jung taught that the unconscious speaks in symbols, and the body is its most ancient language, guiding us toward truth long before the mind can catch up. Shadow attraction, on the other hand, is a trick of the psyche. It ignites with intensity, burns with obsession, and traps us in cycles of drama that feel exciting but secretly drain the soul. These connections are built on projections and unmet needs, and though they begin with fire, they rarely sustain warmth. The spiritual awakening lies in learning to discern the difference, in realizing that the pull you once called chemistry may only be an echo of pain. To trust your body is to free yourself from these illusions, because it always tells you when something is not right. The shallow breath, the knot in the stomach, the unease that lingers despite all rational arguments. But when it is true, the body knows. You feel calm without effort. Your laughter flows without performance. Your silence feels like companionship rather than emptiness. You do not need to strive to be accepted, because your essence is already enough. This is embodied belonging to the soul-level connection that heals instead of wounds, expands instead of confines, liberates instead of binds. Spirituality reminds us that real love does not take you away from yourself. It brings you deeper into who you are meant to be. Listening to your body's subtle wisdom is the most powerful act of alignment, because it helps you distinguish between illusion and truth. The mind can be deceived, but the body recognizes authenticity immediately. Jung believed that wholeness comes from integrating what is hidden, and when you honor the signals within, you open the door to relationships that nurture instead of consume. In that awareness, you stop chasing the storm and begin to recognize the sanctuary. The right person will not disturb your peace. They will deepen it. They will not make you feel small. They will allow you to expand. They will not ask you to wear a mask. They will love you as you are. And when you meet them, you will not need to question it, because every part of your being will already know. To affirm your trust in the hidden wisdom of your body, declare it today. Comment below, "I trust my inner knowing," as a sign that you honor the guidance within and inspire others to listen to their own truth. As we've explored today, Carl Jung revealed that your body carries an ancient wisdom that often speaks louder than logic, guiding you toward the connections that are truly right for your soul. When you feel at peace, safe, and deeply recognized in someone's presence, it is not an accident, it is your inner truth signaling alignment. Let this wisdom inspire you to trust your intuition in love and in life, because your body often knows long before your mind does. How do you personally recognize when someone is right for you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective, and if this message from spiritual wisdom has spoken to your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on this journey of growth and self-discovery. Quantum leaping is real. Here's what Carl Jung never taught you. As Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Today, on Spiritual Wisdom, we're diving into a truth that even Jung himself never fully revealed: the reality of quantum leaping and how it can transform your life. This isn't just theory, it's a doorway to personal growth, happiness, and a deeper spiritual awakening. Imagine breaking free from the limits of your current reality and stepping boldly into the life you've always felt was waiting for you. Are you ready to explore what it really means to leap into a higher version of yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever felt a sudden shift, as if life catapulted you into a new chapter overnight? 1. Quantum jumping is a real, energetic process. Quantum leaping is not simply a metaphor for change. nor is it a mindset trick. It is a vibrational leap, a real energetic process that echoes the mysteries of quantum physics, where electrons do not climb in slow progression, but jump instantaneously from one orbit to another without passing through the space between. This is the hidden pattern of transformation available to us in our own lives. You do not need to crawl step by step toward a new identity, because true change does not come through gradual progression, but through an energetic shift that redefines who you are in a single moment. Spirituality teaches that awakening often arrives like lightning, a sudden illumination rather than a slow dawn. And this is the essence of quantum leaping. You shift identity vibrationally, crossing into the man you were meant to become, the way light instantly fills a room when a switch is flipped. Carl Jung spoke often of individuation, the journey of becoming whole, yet even he never fully explained the instantaneous energetic nature of transformation. The leap is not bound by time or habit, but by vibration. It happens when you stop identifying with the orbit of your old self and accept fully, without hesitation, the frequency of your higher self. This does not mean pretending to be something you are not. It means embodying what already exists in potential, aligning your entire being with a reality that has been waiting for you. A man does not become courageous after years of wrestling with fear. He becomes courageous the moment he decides fear no longer commands him. That decision, that ignition, is a quantum leap, and it reflects the truth that reality responds to your vibration, not your timetable. Every emotion, every thought, every choice is an energetic ripple. But a leap occurs when you choose to sever ties with the old orbit, when you no longer negotiate with the identity of who you once were, but instead inhabit fully the energy of who you are destined to be. This is not reckless change. It is conscious awakening. The moment you realize that life is multidimensional and that the version of yourself you dream of already exists in another frequency. To leap is to embody that frequency now, to stop waiting, to claim it. Spiritual awakening is never about slow accumulation. It is about alignment, and alignment happens the instant you surrender the old vibration and embrace the new. This is why so many men in midlife feel restless and trapped, not because they have failed, but because their soul whispers that the next leap is long overdue. You have walked enough steps on the staircase of incremental progress, and now the path ahead demands a leap, because the life you long for cannot be reached by effort alone, but only by stepping into the consciousness of it here and now. Until you make this shift, your unconscious will continue to steer your path, and you will call it fate, as Jung warned. But when you leap, you seize fate itself and transform it into destiny. A true quantum leap is a spiritual awakening, a deliberate crossing from the man you were into the man you are meant to be. And it happens not tomorrow, not after a slow grind of years, but in the instant you align with the vibration of your higher self. Comment below, "I am leaping into my highest reality," if you are ready to experience the true power of quantum jumping. 2. Discomfort signals the jump. Discomfort is not a sign that you are failing. It is the signal that you are on the edge of transformation. And when you begin to understand this truth, you enter into the very heart of spiritual wisdom that even Carl Jung, with all of his profound psychological insight, only partially revealed. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. And this is exactly what happens when you experience what modern seekers call a quantum leap. Transformation rarely feels like a smooth or thrilling ascension. Instead, it often arrives as confusion, stillness, or chaos that unsettles the foundations of who you thought you were. These moments of disruption are not accidents, but necessary ruptures. The evidence that your old self is expiring and a new frequency is being born within you. It is like standing in the middle of an earthquake. Everything you relied on shakes. The walls of certainty crack, and you wonder if you will survive. Yet earthquakes do not come to destroy for no reason. They come to clear the ground, to make room for structures that are stronger, truer, and more aligned with the person you are meant to become. Emotional discomfort, whether it shows up as emptiness, misalignment, or that restless gnawing inside your chest, is not a curse or a flaw, but a signpost from your inner world. Jung often reminded us that the psyche uses symptoms to communicate what the conscious mind is unwilling to face, and that what we repress always returns until we have the courage to transform it. So when you feel restlessness or hollowness, do not treat it as a defect in your character, but as the whisper of your soul, urging you to move forward. Think of a snake shedding its skin. The process looks awkward, uncomfortable, even painful, but without it, the snake cannot grow. You too are shedding an identity that no longer serves the next chapter of your life. And though the process may feel unbearable at times, it is sacred. Too many people believe that spiritual awakening should feel serene, blissful, and filled with light at all times. Yet if you study Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom closely, you will see that true awakening often feels like being dismantled before you are rebuilt. He once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul," which explains why many run from discomfort instead of embracing it. But avoiding discomfort only prolongs suffering. When you confront the emptiness and step into the chaos with awareness, you open the door to creation itself. This is where quantum leaping takes place, not in comfort, but in courage. What once appeared as pain becomes a sacred teacher, guiding you toward the higher frequency of your authentic self. Picture a man who has spent decades in a stable job, admired for his reliability, yet inwardly he feels numb, restless, and disconnected. From the outside, nothing is wrong, but inside he knows he cannot continue. That discomfort is not proof that he has wasted his life. It is the universe shaking his foundations, preparing him for a leap. If he listens, he might finally follow his true calling, create deeper connections, or begin a new chapter that aligns with his essence. If he ignores the signs, the restlessness will intensify until change is unavoidable. This is the paradox of growth. The pain you most resist often hides the transformation you most need. So when you find yourself lost in confusion, trapped in stillness, or overwhelmed by chaos, remember that you are not broken. You are in the middle of renewal. Your soul is stretching toward a higher vibration, even if your conscious mind cannot yet understand it. Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that is why discomfort matters. It is the unconscious breaking through the surface, demanding that you evolve. Instead of resisting, trust it. That ache in your chest, that gnawing dissatisfaction, that restless longing are not signs of weakness, but proof that your leap has already begun. And when you emerge on the other side, You will not just be surviving, you will be reborn into a life aligned with your deepest truth, a life that Carl Jung would recognize as the reward of those who dare to face the darkness in order to awaken to the light of spiritual wisdom. Do you feel the discomfort calling you forward? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I am ready to leap into my new reality. 3. Identity is a frequency. You are not a static being. You are a living frequency, a broadcast that constantly transmits into the unseen field around you. And the truth of quantum leaping lies in this. The universe does not answer to your words or surface desires. It responds to the emotional and vibrational tone you carry within. You may affirm that you want peace, wealth, or love. But if your inner broadcast is still tuned to fear, scarcity, or self-doubt, life will only reflect those old echoes back to you. Carl Jung revealed the power of the unconscious in shaping our destiny when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And here is where spirituality and spiritual growth expand his insight. Fate is not fixed. It is the mirror of your frequency. Transformation is not about forcing new thoughts on top of old wounds. It is about collapsing the vibration of the outdated self and choosing to radiate a new signal, one that already carries the energy of who you are becoming. In the rhythm of modern life, you can see this principle everywhere. Think of someone who wakes up with stress already tightening their chest, scrolling endlessly through notifications, comparing themselves to others, carrying the weight of bills, obligations, and regrets. They tell themselves they want a different day, a breakthrough, yet their body and emotions are still tuned to lack, and so the day plays out like a repetitive script from yesterday. Now picture another person in the same world, rising with intention, taking a deep breath before looking at a screen, choosing gratitude for what already exists, even if circumstances seem unchanged. They align with a frequency of calm, of courage, of joy, and suddenly the world responds. The right call comes at the right time. Conversations feel warmer, and opportunities appear where none seemed possible before. The difference is not luck, it is vibration, the frequency of identity silently shaping what the quantum field returns. Your identity is not the mask you wear. It is the signal you send, and the field is always listening. If you vibrate as someone powerless, life will continuously mirror situations where you feel trapped. If you choose to vibrate as someone capable, worthy, and aligned with truth, life begins to rearrange itself in ways that affirm that broadcast. Albert Einstein's timeless reminder, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. Points directly to this hidden key. You are not waiting for proof to change. You are broadcasting change before proof arrives. Every moment gives you a choice: to stay loyal to yesterday's frequency, or to step into the higher vibration of the self you long to be. Spiritual growth is the practice of noticing what you are broadcasting and daring to shift it again and again until your outer world aligns with your inner truth. When you realize that identity is frequency, you stop asking when life will change and start asking what frequency you are transmitting right now. Because the leap into your new reality begins not when circumstances shift, but when you decide to collapse the old self and radiate the energy of the new. And it is in that moment, repeated with awareness, that true transformation and freedom begin. 4. 5-step process of quantum jumping. When discomfort shows up as restlessness, heaviness, or frustration, it is not a weakness, but a signal that you are standing on the threshold of transformation. Because in the language of spirituality, this tension is energetic interference, pointing you toward a larger version of yourself. Instead of fearing it, see it as confirmation that you are close to breakthrough. For the body and mind often resist most fiercely right before expansion occurs. The key is to recognize that the unease is not punishment, but permission, an invitation to step forward into a new reality. The moment this discomfort arises, the next move is to interrupt the emotional pattern immediately, because emotions are loops that gather momentum if left unchecked. A simple physical change, like shifting your breath into longer exhales, lifting your posture, walking briskly across the room, rinsing your hands with cool water, or even speaking a single sentence of truth out loud snaps you out of the old cycle. By breaking the loop in real time, you create a pause wide enough to insert choice, and that pause is where spiritual awakening begins. From that space, you are called to embody the new timeline even before there is proof. This is not about pretending, but about teaching your nervous system to accept a higher frequency as home. Ask yourself, how would my future self move, breathe, and decide? And then step into it now. Stand taller. Speak with more certainty. Clear the clutter from your environment. Wear something that reflects the man you are becoming. Or write a phrase that your future self would say and declare it aloud. Through these embodied rehearsals, you make confidence and calmness your default, not a distant dream. Once you begin to feel this shift, it is time to take aligned action, not to chase a result, but to signal the universe that you have already become this new version of yourself. Every action is a declaration, so choose something your future self would not delay and do it today. Send the message you've been postponing. Say no to what drains your energy. Dedicate time to building a skill that truly matters. Prepare a nourishing meal, or move your body with focused intention. The power lies in the purity of action, doing it not to grasp an outcome, but to affirm, I am already aligned. The final step is detachment from the outcome. Results may not appear instantly, but holding on to expectation pulls you back into scarcity. The task is to remain in the frequency, no matter what shows up outside you. Return to the breath of your future self. Maintain the posture and tone you practiced. Stay consistent with your routine, and measure success by your to remain faithful to this state. When you release the need to check and control, you invite synchronicity to unfold in its own time, because cause and effect often travel by hidden roads. Through this rhythm, recognizing discomfort as a threshold, breaking the loop, embodying the new state, taking aligned action, and letting go of results, quantum leaping becomes more than an idea. It turns into a repeatable process that blends psychology with spirituality and allows you to walk steadily into your future. And as you practice, subtle signs confirm the leap. Conversations feel lighter, decisions come easier, temptations lose their grip, and opportunities approach with less resistance, all because you tuned yourself to the frequency of the life you chose to live. If you're ready to apply this 5-step process of quantum jumping into your own life, Make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's step into this new reality together. 5. The field responds to emotional congruence, not logic. The field of reality does not bend to clever logic or endless affirmations, but to the resonance of your emotions, because the universe is always mirroring back what you are truly being. You can repeat the word abundance 1,000 times, but if your heart is still heavy with fear, lack, or doubt, the reflection will always be scarcity. This is not punishment, and it is not judgment. It is calibration, a perfect mirror that reveals the frequency you live in. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this truth shows us why so many remain trapped in cycles of frustration even when they consciously desire change. Their mind may visualize wealth, love, or freedom, but their unconscious emotions vibrate with the opposite, and the field cannot be fooled, because it responds not to words, but to the deepest state of being. Quantum leaping, then, is not about tricking the universe with mental affirmations, but about embodying the energy of the reality you seek so fully that thought, emotion, and belief move as one. Imagine a radio station. No matter how badly you want to hear your favorite song, unless you tune into the right frequency, all you will hear is static. The same principle applies to manifestation. Until your inner frequency matches your desired reality, the field has nothing coherent to amplify. Spiritual wisdom tells us that the shift occurs when you stop living in contradiction, when your body, mind, and soul are no longer at war. Jung's work on the shadow reminds us that what is hidden within us secretly governs our lives, and until we integrate those hidden wounds, they will sabotage our attempts at transformation. Scarcity is not just a thought. It is a state your body remembers. When fear and lack dominate, your nervous system contracts, your energy field tightens, and your perception narrows. Even if you think abundance, your body betrays the lie because it still carries the memory of struggle. That is why healing, shadow work, and integration are essential. Jung observed that there is no coming to consciousness without pain, because only by facing and embracing what was once rejected can we shift our emotional reality. The moment your emotions align with your conscious vision, the field recalibrates and mirrors abundance, love, or freedom with striking accuracy. The universe, in truth, is an echo chamber of being. You cannot outthink your emotional state, but you can transform it. And this is the real secret of quantum leaping. When your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs flow together in harmony, resistance dissolves, and the field responds instantly. What looks like a miracle is in fact the natural physics of consciousness, and synchronicities, opportunities, and breakthroughs begin to appear as if reality itself is conspiring in your favor. Rumi said, "What you seek is seeking you." And this is not only poetry, but a description of how energy magnetizes when coherence is achieved. You are not being judged. You are being mirrored. The field is not testing you. It is showing you who you are at the level of vibration. To leap into a new timeline, you must stop living in contradiction, because no amount of wishing can override the truth of your emotional frequency. Align your inner state with the reality you long for. Bring the unconscious into light. Heal the fragments of your shadow and embody the abundance you desire. Then the leap is no longer an effort. It becomes a natural unfolding, because the field cannot do anything but reflect the wholeness of what you have become. 6. Doubt collapses the broadcast. Doubt collapses the broadcast because the very instant you ask yourself, "Is it working?" you interrupt the energy that is meant to carry you forward. And in doing so, you weaken the very transformation you are longing for. Constant checking for proof is like pulling a seed out of the soil every day to see if it has sprouted, never giving it the chance to take root. What you truly need in spirituality and spiritual growth is not a fragile belief that shakes when life delays its response, but a broadcast, a clear and unwavering signal of identity that you sustain no matter what the external world reflects back. Think of a radio station. It never stops to check if its sound is reaching you. It simply broadcasts, and because of that constant, the signal inevitably finds the receivers tuned to it. There was once a man who wanted to change his career, yet he sabotaged himself by refreshing his inbox every hour, anxiously searching for confirmation. All this did was drain his energy and reinforce his old identity of waiting and doubting. His shift only came when he decided to live each day as if he were already the professional he envisioned. He dressed the part, spoke with confidence, and invested his time in the work he wanted to embody. Within months, opportunities aligned with his new identity began to appear as if by magic. As Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Broadcasting is precisely this act of turning your chosen identity into a conscious signal that you send out, without tearing it down by demanding immediate evidence. Doubt acts like static on the frequency, clouding your message so that the universe cannot respond clearly, while faith in your broadcast is a clean channel through which synchronicity can move. This is why spiritual wisdom has always taught that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Because the unseen is not less real. It is simply not yet visible. Instead of asking, "Is it working?" the only question that matters is, "Am I still broadcasting?" If the answer is yes, then your role is simply to sustain the signal, because reality will always adjust itself to match the frequency you hold. Your life does not change by chasing proof, but by becoming the steady signal of the life you choose. When you live inside that unwavering broadcast, the proof will not only appear, it will flood you, because reality has no choice but to echo back the vibration you have been faithfully sending. Stay connected with our spiritual wisdom community by subscribing to the channel. Here, we uncover hidden truths and walk together on the path of awakening. Remember, doubt collapses the broadcast, but faith keeps your energy aligned with the abundance already waiting for you. 7. Jumping creates chaos. It's not a sign of failure. A quantum leap is never as smooth as we wish it to be, because when you shift into a new frequency, the field of your life begins to reorganize itself in ways that can feel chaotic and unsettling. What once felt secure suddenly unravels, not as a sign of failure, but as proof that the old structures are being dismantled to make room for something greater. Silence from friends, distance in relationships, or even the loss of opportunities are not punishments, but clearings. The frequency you lived in before cannot survive in the higher vibration you are moving toward. And just like a house being taken apart brick by brick, the dismantling is necessary for the new design to emerge. This process can be disorienting because you are leaving behind familiar territory. And as Carl Jung reminded us, in all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order, meaning that even the confusion has an intelligence working beneath it. When you experience this unraveling, it is easy to misinterpret it as rejection or abandonment, but in truth, it is the universe aligning you with what matches your authentic path. A man who left his corporate job after 2 decades to follow his calling as a healer described how quickly the life he knew began to fall apart. The daily calls and social gatherings that once gave him comfort disappeared, and for a while he thought he had made a mistake. But slowly, new connections arrived, clients, mentors, and friendships that resonated with who he was becoming rather than who he used to be. The silence became space for him to discover his voice. The loss became room for new opportunities, and the distance gave him clarity about what relationships were truly aligned. What he first experienced as chaos revealed itself to be the very proof of his transformation. This is the essence of spirituality and the path of spiritual awakening. To recognize that what looks like disorder is often a hidden order, working to reshape your life to match your new frequency. You may feel stripped of what once defined you, but this is no different than a snake shedding its skin so it can grow. Misalignments surface so they can be released, and the unraveling is not a collapse, but a rebirth. Each silence, each distance, and each loss carries within it the seed of a new beginning. If you can trust this process, you will see that chaos is not the end. It is the very sign that the leap is real and that life is preparing you for a reality that fully reflects your true self. 8. Staying in the new broadcast anchors the shift. When people attempt to quantum leap into a higher version of themselves, most fail not because the leap is impossible, but because they do not remain in the new vibration long enough for reality to align with it. They jump with excitement, but impatience and old conditioning quickly pull them back into their familiar patterns, and in that collapse, they mistakenly believe the leap has failed. In truth, reality is not instant, but elastic, bending slowly to meet the frequency you hold. Just as a seed requires time in the soil before it breaks through the surface, your new vibration needs time to anchor before the outer world can reflect it back to you. And here lies the deeper spiritual wisdom that even Carl Jung, with all his insight into the human psyche, never fully revealed. Transformation is not only about the initial spark, but the sustained resonance that follows. To remain in that frequency requires trust, discipline, and awareness. Jung himself once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The unconscious pulls of fear, doubt, and impatience are what drag you back into your old life. And unless you confront them, you cannot sustain your new identity. It is in the moments when no one is watching, in the silence of your own thoughts and emotions, that your true broadcast is sent into the universe. What you feel when the world is not looking shapes reality more than what you perform publicly, because vibration speaks louder than words. If your inner life is scattered between faith and doubt, your signal is fragmented. But when your inner life is steady in trust, reality has no choice but to bend toward it. Every time you question, why hasn't it happened yet? You are unknowingly sending out the vibration of lack, and lack cannot create abundance. Impatience is not just restlessness. It is mistrust in disguise, and mistrust interrupts the leap. To hold the vibration is to dwell in the as if, to embody already having what you desire until it becomes natural, until it seeps into your unconscious and becomes your default state. William James reminded us that belief creates the actual fact, and belief is not measured in moments of passion, but in the quiet consistency of your inner stance. Ralph Waldo Emerson echoed this truth when he said, "The ancestor of every action is a thought. For when thought is sustained with unwavering feeling, it inevitably becomes reality." Quantum leaping, then, is not a sudden miracle, but an inner discipline, a commitment to keep your vibration steady no matter how long reality takes to catch up. This is where true spiritual awakening begins, because spirituality is not only belief in the unseen, but the patience to live within it until the seen transforms. The leap is real the moment you refuse to collapse, the moment you choose trust over doubt, the moment you breathe through the silence and remind yourself that the shift is already unfolding. When your inner broadcast stays aligned, reality has no choice but to respond. And so the great lesson, beyond Jung's exploration of the unconscious, is that you are not only a seeker of hidden truths, but also a transmitter of frequencies that shape the world. What you feel when no one else can see is not just a private moment, it is the seed of your new reality. If you're still with us on this journey, comment below, "I'm anchored in the shift." Your words show us that you're ready to stay in the new broadcast and help us build this community together. 9. Certainty without evidence is the key. The strongest signal you can ever hold is certainty in yourself, not in the outcome. Because when you are rooted in who you are becoming, rather than what you are chasing, life begins to rearrange itself to match that signal. The field, as Carl Jung hinted but never fully taught, responds with greater speed when you stop needing proof. Because proof is only the echo of your inner state. Reality never bends to frantic effort or desperate control. It bends when you consistently embody the signal of who you already know yourself to be. Think of how often in daily life people delay stepping forward until the evidence arrives, waiting for the promotion before claiming leadership, waiting for validation before speaking their truth, waiting for a perfect sign before trusting love. Yet the real shift comes when you flip the order, when you stop auditioning and begin living as though your role is already secured. A modern story illustrates this. A man who wanted to start his own business kept postponing his launch until he had one more degree, one more investor, one more nod of approval. But the day he wrote down, "I am a capable founder who builds solutions people need," and began acting from that certainty, introducing himself that way, creating as though it were real, organizing his life around it, doors opened with unexpected ease. Clients and partners showed up, not because he forced results, but because his signal was finally clear. This is spirituality made practical. This is spiritual growth lived, not as abstract belief, but as daily choices rooted in trust. You can feel it in your own body the moment you stop negotiating with doubt. Your breath steadies, your posture shifts, and your voice carries conviction because you are no longer waiting for evidence to tell you who you are. Certainty is not arrogance or denial. It is alignment with a chosen identity that you hold through both victories and setbacks, adjusting methods when needed, but never abandoning the signal. This is the essence of a quantum leap, not a magical rescue, but a disciplined identity shift that pulls results into orbit around you. To live this truth, craft one clear sentence about who you are and practice being that signal without checking for proof. Honor daily rituals that anchor your certainty. Keep promises to yourself to strengthen trust, and let outcomes inform your tactics, but never your self-definition. The field will mirror you more quickly when you stop demanding signs and instead become the sign. And when you remain consistent long enough, reality itself has no choice but to reorganize around your unwavering presence. 10. Don't seek proof. Become the signal. What if the real reason you remain stuck is not because life is blocking you, but because you keep transmitting the same frequency of the past instead of aligning with the energy of the future you desire? In the language of spirituality and spiritual awakening, this is the essence of a quantum leap. It is not about chasing proof from the outside. It is about becoming the living proof yourself. When you pause and ask, "Am I broadcasting my future, or am I rehearsing my past?" you open a doorway to transformation, because every thought, every feeling, and every inner rehearsal is a signal sent into the field of possibility. Carl Jung spoke profoundly about the unconscious shaping our lives, yet he never showed us how deliberately shifting our inner broadcast could realign us with new timelines. That is where spiritual wisdom expands the conversation, revealing that the leap is never dramatic or chaotic. It arrives quietly, subtly, and in perfect elegance, showing itself not through explosions of change, but through alignment that feels natural, inevitable, and deeply right. You begin to notice coincidences that cannot be ignored, synchronicities that feel like signposts placed precisely in your path, and opportunities that seem to appear as if summoned by your very thoughts. These are not random accidents. They are confirmations that your signal has shifted, that you are no longer tethered to the old narrative, but walking inside a new one. Consider the man who, for years, wakes each morning rehearsing the same story of frustration about his job, repeating words of limitation, and unconsciously tying himself to a cycle he secretly hates. The moment he dares to imagine something different, the moment he begins to carry himself as though the future he longs for is already unfolding, his signal changes. At first, the shift is invisible, but slowly, small cracks in the old reality appear. A conversation overheard, a new connection introduced, an unexpected opening revealed. Within months, he finds himself living a reality once beyond reach, not because the world magically changed, but because his signal called it into existence. This is why, when you feel that subtle, elegant shift inside, you must not dismiss it as mere coincidence. It is evidence. Every synchronicity is the universe whispering, "Yes, you jumped." The true proof is not external validation, but the undeniable realignment of your inner world with what now flows into your life. The leap does not require shouting or demanding. It requires broadcasting a new frequency with such clarity that reality itself bends to meet you. This is the heart of spirituality, the living pulse of spiritual awakening. To stop seeking proof and instead become the signal. Because once you embody the future you desire, life cannot resist reflecting it back to you. Throughout this video, we explored the hidden truth behind quantum leaping and how it connects with ideas Carl Jung never fully explained. You've discovered that a leap isn't just a metaphor, it's a real shift in consciousness, a bridge between who you are today and the life you are capable of living. Now the question is, will you dare to apply these principles in your own life? Every step you take with awareness can open new possibilities for growth, happiness, and spiritual awakening. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe you are ready to take your quantum leap? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next journey into deeper truths. Do this just once, and his soul will choose you over everyone else. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. In love, the same truth applies. Authenticity is the most magnetic force of all. When you embody your true essence, without pretending or competing, something extraordinary happens. The right soul feels it and chooses you beyond all reason. Today, on Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore how just one shift in your energy can transform the way love finds you. But before we begin, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where simply being yourself drew someone closer without effort? Share your story in the comments below, and let's awaken this hidden power together. 1. The real secret of attraction. True magnetism has nothing to do with flawless looks, eternal youth, or material wealth, because attraction, at its deepest level, is not a game of appearances, but a resonance of energies. When you try to impress, compete for attention, or prove your worth, you unknowingly weaken your essence because you step out of truth and into performance. What captivates a man on a primal and spiritual level is not perfection, but presence, not chasing, but being, not needing, but radiating. Authentic feminine energy is the force that calls him home, because it communicates safety, trust, and authenticity without a single word. Spirituality and spiritual awakening remind us that this energy arises when you live from alignment with yourself, when your body, heart, and spirit move as one rather than scattering to seek validation. A calm presence, a soft breath, an unhurried response. These subtle signals carry more weight than any strategy, because they tell his instincts, you are not a storm of insecurity, but a steady flame of truth. Competing for affection says, I can be negotiated, while embodying your essence says, I am whole as I am. You do not need to be louder to be seen. You need only to be true. Boundaries set with grace, desires expressed with courage, and the ability to receive without apology make you unforgettable. The woman who no longer runs after, but simply lives her truth, becomes rare. Because she does not barter her worth for attention, she embodies it. This is why authentic feminine energy is not about playing roles, but about living in integrity with your own spirit. It is the way you listen with your whole being, the warmth in your gaze, the depth in your silence, and the joy in your yes or no that carries the weight of truth. From a Jungian perspective, this is the moment when your inner masculine and feminine integrate structure and flow, clarity and softness, discernment and openness. That inner union creates a completeness that others feel immediately, because wholeness is magnetic. To act from this place, you do not need grand gestures. You need one self-honoring choice that interrupts your old pattern. Perhaps it is waiting before responding, so you answer from truth instead of fear. Perhaps it is saying no to something that dishonors your time. Perhaps it is boldly naming a desire and leaving space for it to be met. The moment you do this once, your body feels relief, your spirit awakens, and your energy shifts from chasing to inviting. This shift is undeniable because it carries the signal of authenticity that men instinctively recognize and respect. It rests instead of grasps. It welcomes instead of demands. And it holds a quiet confidence that no strategy could ever replace. Spirituality and spiritual awakening in this context are not abstract concepts. They are lived experiences of coming home to your center, of allowing your presence to reveal truth before your words ever do. When you embody this, you stop auditioning for love and start radiating it. You stop over-explaining and start being understood without effort. You stop fearing you are too much or not enough, because you know you are exactly enough when you are real. True magnetism is never about dazzling for a fleeting moment. It is about becoming the steady light that makes the right soul choose you, not because you demanded it, but because your authenticity guided him there. Do you believe in the real secret of attraction? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I carry the true magnetism of my soul, and I am chosen. 2. The trap most women fall into. Many women unknowingly fall into a subtle yet painful trap when it comes to love. A trap that has nothing to do with beauty, intelligence, or worthiness, but everything to do with overgiving, trying too hard, and making themselves endlessly available. In their attempts to be chosen, they pour out their time, their affection, and their energy without pause, believing that this sacrifice will earn them love. Yet what happens is the opposite. They become invisible, not because they lack value, but because they disconnect from the radiant core of their true essence. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And in relationships, this wisdom carries even greater weight. When you step outside of your authentic self and lose your boundaries in the hope of being validated, you dim the very light that makes you magnetic. On the deepest level, men are not drawn to perfection, nor to someone who constantly proves her worth by doing more. They are irresistibly drawn to a woman who radiates completeness, who carries within her the quiet confidence of someone rooted in her authenticity. This is not about playing games or withholding affection, but about embodying a state of inner wholeness that cannot be faked. Spiritual wisdom across cultures has long taught that the one who stands in her true essence becomes like a flame bright, steady, and impossible to ignore. Walter Riso called this female magnetic presence, the quality that makes a woman unforgettable, not because she competes, but because she embodies her sacred feminine energy with grace and power. Carl Jung revealed another truth when he said, "The soul has an innate drive toward wholeness." When a woman gives to the point of exhaustion, hoping to be chosen, what she is showing is not love, but disconnection from her own wholeness. This creates the very pain of being unseen, because the essence of attraction is not found in sacrifice, but in alignment. A woman who lives in harmony with her authentic self doesn't need to chase, convince, or prove. She naturally draws others to her through the energy she radiates. The paradox is that the less she tries to force love, the stronger her magnetism becomes. Think of a sunflower. It does not beg for sunlight, nor does it twist itself to compete with other flowers. It simply turns toward the light that nourishes it and blooms from its own nature. In the same way, when a woman reclaims her authenticity and stands rooted in her essence, she shines in a way that is undeniable. Men are instinctively drawn to this radiance, not because she is giving endlessly, but because she is whole within herself. The trap of overgiving dissolves when you recognize that you never had to prove your worth at all. What makes a man's soul choose you over everyone else is not effort, but essence. Not the exhaustion of giving more, but the luminous power of being fully yourself. 3. Walter Rizzo's discovery. Walter Rizzo, after many years of study, uncovered something profoundly transformative that he named female magnetic presence, a state of being that cannot be reduced to outer beauty, flawless perfection, or endless competition for attention. What he revealed is that men are not truly captivated by appearances, games, or superficial charm, but by something far deeper. A woman who radiates wholeness, authenticity, and sacred feminine energy that flows from the very core of her being. This kind of presence is powerful because it does not strive to impress, it does not beg to be noticed, and it does not fear being overlooked. Instead, it simply shines with quiet confidence, reminding us of Carl Jung's timeless truth. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When a woman embraces this state, she naturally embodies strength without aggression, softness without weakness, and confidence without arrogance, creating a balance that the male psyche instinctively responds to with reverence and awe. It is not about becoming more perfect or more available, for paradoxically, those efforts often make one invisible. It is about aligning so deeply with oneself that presence alone becomes magnetic. This is where spirituality and spiritual growth enter the picture, because the essence of this magnetism is not about external validation, but about inner harmony. A woman rooted in her sacred feminine energy no longer feels the need to chase, prove, or perform, because her energy already communicates a message older than words, one that resonates in the subconscious mind and draws others toward her effortlessly. Walter Rizzo explained that this presence cannot be manufactured or faked because it is not an act, but a state of being, a silent power that radiates from truth. Jung himself emphasized that the unconscious mind responds to archetypes, symbols, and energies that bypass logic, which is why this magnetic presence has such a primal pull. It bypasses rational calculation and touches something instinctive, something men recognize without fully understanding why. When a woman embodies completeness, she no longer waits to be chosen, because her presence naturally awakens the desire in another's soul to choose her above all else. In this light, attraction is no longer a game of tactics, but a reflection of spiritual wisdom. The more you nurture your inner self, heal your wounds, and cultivate balance between strength and tenderness, the more your energy communicates that you are whole. You do not demand love, because love is already drawn to you. You do not seek recognition, because your presence commands it without effort. This is the paradox that Walter Risso's discovery highlights. The less you chase, the more you attract. And the more you return to yourself, the more others long to return to you. Carl Jung believed that when we align with our authentic self, we tap into an energy that not only transforms our lives, but also the lives of those around us. A woman who embodies this feminine magnetic presence is like the sun. She does not move to seek the sunflower, but the sunflower turns toward her light. The lesson for you, then, is to stop measuring your worth by how much you give, how flawless you appear, or how tirelessly you try to be chosen. Instead, recognize that your greatest power lies in authenticity, in the completeness of your being, in the spiritual growth that allows you to stand firm in who you are. When you do this, you do not just capture attention, you capture the soul. And in that moment, his heart sees no other option but you. This is the true secret of attraction, one that transcends the surface and reaches into the realm of spirituality, reminding you that magnetism is not about effort, but about essence, not about chasing, but about radiating, not about being perfect, but about being whole. Leave your like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to activate the notification bell so you won't miss any of Carl Jung's powerful insights. 4. The power of sacred surrender. Surrender is not weakness, but the purest form of strength. For it is the moment you stop forcing, chasing, and clinging, and instead choose to trust yourself, your worth, and the natural flow of love. To surrender is to live fully, to place yourself at the center of your own life, and to allow love to meet you where you already stand whole. The paradox is that when you stop trying to be chosen, you awaken a man's deepest instinct to choose you. He senses your independence, your calmness, your quiet power, and this stirs within him something ancient and irresistible, because devotion is always drawn to dignity. When you no longer beg for attention or prove your value, you radiate an authenticity that no performance could ever match. And this is the magnetism of true spirituality in love. Sacred surrender does not mean you no longer care. It means you align your words, your actions, your desires, so that you no longer dilute your truth for the sake of being wanted. You still show up, you still love, you still give, but not from desperation, not from fear of being left behind. Instead, you give from fullness, from overflow, from a place where your joy, your rituals, your friendships, your purpose all stand strong, whether someone is beside you or not. A woman who surrenders in this way is not empty waiting to be filled. She is already overflowing, and that is why love flows to her. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you embody that truth, you no longer need to chase, because you have already become magnetic. The essence of surrender looks like an open palm instead of a clenched fist, and an open palm can hold and receive what a tight grip would crush. It looks like resting in your peace rather than running after someone's shadow. It looks like smiling at romance without making it the source of your worth, letting chemistry be a spark but not your foundation, allowing a man to walk the bridge toward you instead of exhausting yourself building it alone. In practice, surrender means answering from authenticity, not panic. It means speaking boundaries with warmth and clarity rather than long explanations. It means investing in your body, your mind, your spiritual awakening, so that your radiance is not borrowed from his attention, but generated by your alignment. Each time you resist the urge to control outcomes, you send a clear message to life itself. I trust the timing that protects me. And here is the mystery. Men feel this shift without needing it explained. Your independence feels like safety. Your wholeness feels like rarity. Your calm feels like depth. The man meant for you will step closer, not because you begged, but because your energy left him no choice. He will feel that the only way to experience you is to honor you. When you live this way, something inside you settles. Your nervous system softens, your intuition grows sharper, and your presence becomes a sanctuary. Love then becomes not a frantic search, but a natural arrival, because you have surrendered the illusion of control and claimed the truth of your worth. This is the power of sacred surrender. It is not about losing, it is about choosing. And the moment you choose yourself, love cannot help but choose you. 5. 3 pillars of magnetic feminine energy. True magnetism has never been about flawless beauty, youth, or wealth. It is something far more subtle, something that Carl Jung would say comes from the soul itself, a force that cannot be faked or manufactured because it emerges when a woman lives in her authentic energy. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that the deepest kind of attraction is not born from manipulation or games, but from an energy field that speaks directly to the unconscious mind. And this is why some women, without trying, awaken a man's attention as though his soul has remembered something it had forgotten. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when a woman dares to live from that truth, she carries an aura that makes her unforgettable, because the masculine recognizes something eternal within her presence, something he cannot find elsewhere. And this recognition is guided by 3 powerful pillars of magnetic feminine energy: emotional independence, conscious presence, and unconditional self-love. Emotional independence is the first pillar, and it is the foundation that makes everything else possible. Because a woman who is whole within herself no longer bends to the winds of validation or rejection. She no longer needs to be chosen to know her worth. And this steadiness is what draws others to her, like a tree whose deep roots withstand every storm. In Jungian psychology, the process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole, is the deepest calling of every soul. And when a woman embodies even a glimpse of this inner wholeness, she becomes magnetic in a way that appearance alone never could, because men sense immediately that she is not demanding to be completed, but instead offering the rare presence of someone who already is. The second pillar, conscious presence, is just as powerful, because when a woman is fully present, she is not distracted. She is not anxiously calculating her next words, and she is not clinging to the man as though her existence depends on him. She is simply here, radiant and attentive, yet still grounded in her own essence. This is not obsession. It is not self-abandonment. It is the ability to bring the fullness of her being into a moment without losing herself inside of him. And this is why her energy feels like sunlight, warm, alive, nourishing, but never desperate. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And presence is precisely this awakening, the kind that does not come from fantasy, but from self-awareness. Because a woman who is awake in herself awakens the man beside her, reminding him of a deeper way of being alive. The third pillar, unconditional self-love. is the fragrance of the soul that no man can resist, because it radiates without effort, like a flower that blooms simply because blooming is its nature, not because it needs to be admired. To love yourself unconditionally is to release the endless measuring of worth by achievements, by attention, or by comparison, and to accept yourself as a living expression of the divine. In Jung's spiritual wisdom, this is the anima in its highest expression, the feminine principle that heals and harmonizes, not by striving, but by simply being. And when a woman carries this fragrance, she no longer has to chase. She simply exists, and her existence becomes magnetic. This kind of self-love is not arrogance. It is not ego. It is alignment with the truth that you are already whole, already worthy, already luminous. When emotional independence, conscious presence, and unconditional self-love merge into one living reality, they create a field of energy that no man can deny, because his soul feels seen, inspired, and safe in such a presence. This is not manipulation. This is not performance. This is spiritual awakening manifesting in human form. And when a woman lives from this place, she does not have to compete, because the right man feels it in his depths. This is the soul that mirrors him back to himself, the soul he cannot ignore, the soul that his being will choose beyond all logic, beyond all comparison, because it is the recognition of truth. We hope this insight into the 3 pillars of magnetic feminine energy has inspired you to embrace your authentic power. If you're ready to embody this spiritual wisdom and awaken the radiance within, comment, "I embody magnetic energy," below. Your voice encourages us to share more truths that uplift and transform. 6. Transformation and results. When a woman decides to shift from seeking validation to embodying her true essence, something profound happens. She naturally filters out the men who are immature, insecure, or unwilling to step into the depth of real love. And instead, she begins to attract only those who are prepared for authenticity and partnership. This change is not about playing games or presenting perfection. It is about aligning your words, actions, and presence into one coherent energy that communicates safety, freedom, and respect. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you live by this truth, you become magnetic without effort, because your calm confidence, your grace in receiving, and your clarity in boundaries invite a man who values growth and maturity while discouraging anyone who only seeks fleeting attention. Relationships that grow from this space are not shallow connections held together by fear or performance. They are deeper, healthier, and longer lasting because they rest on freedom, mutual respect, and authenticity. You no longer find yourself accepting crumbs of affection or overextending your energy in the hope of being chosen. Instead, you rise as the treasure that a worthy man recognizes and cherishes. This is where spirituality meets the daily practice of love, because every moment you honor yourself, you are engaging in spiritual growth, transforming unconscious patterns into conscious choices, and showing both yourself and others that true intimacy begins with self-respect. You do not chase. You do not plead. You do not overprove. You simply hold steady in your wholeness, and in doing so, you create an energetic filter where only the man ready for commitment and authenticity can meet you. From this shift come practical lessons for your journey. Express your needs in clear and simple words. Observe whether his actions consistently align with his promises. Invest only in what feels mutual and kind, and nurture a life filled with purpose, joy, and friendships so that love adds to your abundance instead of filling a void. The more you live this way, the more your presence becomes magnetic in the truest sense, and the right soul, one who is prepared for partnership, will feel inspired to match you with devotion, consistency, and care. In the end, this is not about winning attention, but about stepping into your sacred power, where love flourishes not because you were chosen, but because you chose to become the fullest expression of who you are. 7. The ultimate lesson. The one thing that makes him choose you above everyone else is not about changing yourself to fit his expectations, but about choosing yourself and living fully in your true feminine essence. When you stop performing, pleasing, or competing to be noticed, and instead honor your authentic self, a profound shift happens. Your energy softens, your confidence deepens, and you radiate a quiet strength that no one can ignore. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And this truth applies deeply to love. When you turn inward and awaken to your own value, you no longer chase, compare, or play games. Instead, you become grounded in who you are, and this grounded presence is what draws a man's soul to you, because he senses safety, wholeness, and truth in your energy. Loving yourself fully does not make you selfish. It makes you magnetic. When you embrace your worth, you awaken love not only in him, but also in everyone around you. People respond to the vibration you carry, and your self-love becomes a mirror that encourages them to rise higher. Think of a lighthouse. It does not run along the shore, begging ships to notice. It simply shines steadily, and those who need its light are naturally drawn to it. Your self-trust is that light, and the man meant for you is drawn not to your perfection, but to your consistency, your authenticity, and your ability to stand in your own truth. This path, however, requires trust, courage, and the unlearning of old patterns that kept you stuck in fear. Trust means allowing space for him to come closer without rushing or forcing outcomes. Courage means holding your standards firmly yet lovingly, even if it means walking away from what does not honor you. Unlearning means letting go of the belief that love must be earned through overgiving, chasing, or proving yourself. Instead, you learn to rest in your worth, to sit with your emotions without denying them, and to speak with honesty rather than with strategies or tests. When you choose yourself, you stop equating chaos with chemistry and stop confusing attention with love. You begin to see that true connection comes from sincerity, not performance. Your conversations shift from testing and teasing to openness and tenderness. You listen more, you speak with clarity, and you allow silence to breathe instead of filling it with anxiety. Slowly, you embody what spirituality and spiritual awakening truly mean in relationships. Love becomes a path of growth rather than a battlefield of insecurity. You carry yourself with grace, and your presence alone communicates that you are not seeking validation, you are already whole. As you walk this path, your presence becomes magnetic in ways words cannot fully explain. You are calm, radiant, and unshakably authentic. You are not auditioning for a role in someone's life. You are living fully on your own. This is why the man who is meant for you will choose you above all others. It is not because you worked harder, looked prettier, or played the right games, but because you chose yourself first, honored your essence, and let your inner light shine steadily like a lighthouse guiding him home. To seal this ultimate lesson into your heart, affirm your readiness to live it fully. Comment below, "I embrace the ultimate lesson," as a declaration of your growth and an inspiration for others walking the same path. So as we've seen, the secret isn't about beauty, perfection, or competing for attention. It's about embodying your authentic feminine essence and allowing that quiet but powerful presence to speak for you. Carl Jung's insights remind us that true connection is born from authenticity, not performance, and that when you embrace your sacred energy, you naturally draw the right soul toward you. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced the magnetic pull of simply being yourself? Share your story in the comments below, and let's continue this journey of spiritual wisdom together. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us here on Spiritual Wisdom for more insights to guide your growth and happiness. Master your shadow, master your mind. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung once said, "Every shadow we ignore within ourselves becomes a silent puppeteer, shaping our thoughts, emotions, and choices without us even realizing it." On Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that mastering your shadow is not about eliminating darkness, but about transforming it into the very fuel that awakens your true mind and spirit. As you listen, I invite you to reflect. What hidden patterns or fears might be guiding your life right now? Share your thoughts in the comments, because the first step toward freedom is daring to name what has been unseen. 1. The shadow. What it is and why it matters. The shadow is not an external demon to be feared, but the hidden side of your own psyche, the place where you've buried emotions, impulses, and traits that you were told were unacceptable since childhood: anger, envy, selfishness, sadness. Yet repressing these parts never destroys them. They remain alive, influencing your decisions, shaping your relationships, and silently dictating the course of your life. Jung's warning rings true. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The shadow is not evil in nature. It is unconscious, like a locked room in your own house that you refuse to enter. But inside that room is not only pain, it is also power, creativity, and untapped wisdom waiting for you to reclaim it. Many men, well into their 30s, 40s, or 60s, live under its influence without realizing it. They repeat destructive patterns, fall into the same broken relationships, lose themselves in the same conflicts, and wonder why life feels like an endless loop of disappointment. They call it destiny or bad luck, but it is the shadow at work, quietly pulling the strings from the background. Think of it as a reservoir of energy. Denied and ignored, it leaks into your life as uncontrolled rage, jealousy, despair. But faced directly, it becomes fuel for an inner fire that can be directed towards self-mastery, clarity, and purpose. This is why Jung insisted that wholeness does not come from rejecting the shadow, but from integrating it, because only then do you stand in the truth of your full humanity. In today's world, where men are told to hide fear, bury sadness, and never show weakness, the need to face the shadow is even more urgent. Suppressed emotions do not vanish. They build pressure, like a volcano waiting to erupt. And when they do, they destroy families, careers, and inner peace. Spirituality teaches us that light cannot exist without shadow. Both are necessary for wholeness. Spiritual awakening is not about pretending to be eternally positive, but about embracing the entire spectrum of who you are. If you felt restless, lost, or haunted by choices that make no sense, it is the shadow calling, urging you to listen. The path of integration requires courage because it demands radical honesty. It means admitting that you are capable of envy, rage, selfishness, and weakness. But the paradox is this: once acknowledged, these traits lose their destructive power and become tools for growth. A man who denies his anger becomes its prisoner, exploding unpredictably. A man who accepts his anger learns to channel it into boundaries, leadership, and strength. The shadow, once faced, becomes a teacher that sharpens your awareness, reveals your projections, and helps you act with greater intention rather than blind reaction. This practice begins in the smallest moments. Notice when your emotions feel larger than the situation at hand. Ask yourself, what is truly happening inside me? What am I refusing to see? Write it down, sit with it, or speak with someone you trust. Discomfort is not an enemy, it is a doorway. Each time you uncover a hidden piece of your shadow, you reclaim a lost fragment of your soul. Over time, this work leads to clarity, resilience, and a steady center from which no storm can easily shake you. To master the shadow is to accept that you are both light and darkness, both strong and vulnerable, both noble and flawed. This acceptance frees you from the exhausting battle of pretending, of wearing masks, of running from yourself. It allows you to step fully into your life with authenticity, presence, and power. This is more than psychology. It is a spiritual awakening, a return to wholeness that transforms not only how you see yourself, but how you move through the world, shaping your relationships, your work, and the legacy you leave behind. Have you ever faced your shadow and discovered what it was trying to teach you? If so, share your experience in the comments to inspire others. If not, comment "I will face it" so we can walk this path of self-mastery together. 2. The psychological cost of repression. When you repress the shadow within, it does not disappear. It lingers in the unconscious, gathering strength and influencing your life from the darkness. Carl Jung warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Every unacknowledged wound, every denied emotion, every hidden part of yourself continues to act in silence, shaping your choices, your relationships, and even your mental and physical well-being. Anxiety that strikes without warning, depression that drains your spirit, self-sabotage that undermines your goals, sudden emotional outbursts, chronic guilt, and lingering shame are not random weaknesses of character. They are signs of the shadow pressing against the walls you built to contain it. Left unaddressed, repression leads to toxic relationship patterns, cycles of guilt, and a sense of inner fragmentation that makes you feel divided, incomplete, and estranged from your own essence. Repression gains much of its strength through the persona, the mask you wear to survive in society, to win approval, to appear strong or agreeable, even when your inner truth is suffering. Jung described the persona as necessary but dangerous when mistaken for your authentic self. You may laugh when you want to cry, agree when your heart says no, or suppress your anger for fear of being judged. In doing so, You create a polished mask that pleases others but betrays your soul. As Shakespeare once observed, God has given you one face, and you make yourself another. That second face may protect you for a time, but beneath it, your shadow grows restless, leaking into your dreams, your fears, your sudden overreactions, and the choices you regret but cannot explain. Repressed shadow energy behaves like a caged animal, unseen yet powerful, agitated, and waiting for any chance to escape. It reveals itself in moments when you lash out at someone you love over something trivial, when envy bites at you despite your attempts to feel only joy for another's success, or when shame rises suddenly and clouds your sense of worth. These contradictions reveal a deeper truth. What is denied within does not vanish. It grows more insistent in silence. Nietzsche captured this danger when he wrote, "Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster." By repressing your shadow for too long, you risk being consumed by the very forces you refuse to face. The path of spiritual wisdom, illuminated by Carl Jung's insights, calls you not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it, to reclaim the parts of yourself that you abandoned. To admit your anger is to find its hidden lesson in boundaries and courage rather than destruction. To embrace your vulnerability is to discover deeper authenticity and the power of genuine human connection. Integration is not perfection, it is wholeness, and wholeness ends the war within. The mind cannot be mastered while it is divided against itself. Each step you take toward integration weakens the grip of repression. The mask becomes unnecessary because your authentic self can breathe freely without fear of rejection. The shadow becomes less an enemy and more a guide, teaching you strength, compassion, and resilience. What once sabotaged you now empowers you, because in facing what was hidden, you claim the fullness of your humanity. Repression is costly, but awareness liberates. When you dare to face your shadow, you reclaim the freedom to live without disguise, without fear, and without shame. 3. Confrontation, not suppression, is the cure. You must consciously confront your shadow to stop being ruled by it, because every time you try to suppress it, you only give it more power. Though it may feel easier to look away, Carl Jung taught us that you are not just your good side. You are also what you fear most to admit. Facing that fear is uncomfortable, but it is also the birthplace of healing and resilience, the place where spiritual wisdom becomes reality, and where true spiritual growth begins to take root. Think about how this plays out in modern life. A man named David, always calm at work, suddenly explodes when a colleague questions him, not because of the question itself, but because deep down, he still carries the weight of being dismissed and overlooked as a child. The shadow memory of "I am not respected" fuels his anger, and until he turns inward to acknowledge it, the pattern repeats. The moment David stops and admits, "This isn't only about today, it's about old pain I've been carrying," he opens the door to understanding rather than lashing out. And in that single act of honesty, the shadow loses its grip. Jung warned us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That truth explains why so many of us keep stumbling into the same mistakes. We are not cursed. We are simply unconscious of what drives us. Confronting our shadow is how we break that loop. This practice is not self-condemnation, but self-respect, because the shadow does not only hide wounds, it also conceals gifts. Your anger may contain the courage to protect what matters. Your jealousy may reveal the path your soul longs to walk. Your perfectionism may be reshaped into a pursuit of excellence that inspires instead of shames. When you dare to bring these forces into the light, you stop being torn apart by them and instead become strengthened by them. So whenever you feel a strong reaction, pause and breathe. Name the emotion without judgment. Ask yourself, what is this really protecting? And then listen. Write down the answer. And, if needed, take a small outer step. Apologize, set a boundary, or ask for help. Because integration is not just insight, it is action that heals. Over time, with daily practice, you will notice that you no longer feel hijacked by sudden reactions, that your decisions grow clearer and your energy more grounded. The mind begins to trust you to tell the truth and no longer needs to defend itself with denial. This is how you master your mind by mastering your shadow. The lessons are simple, but life-changing. Facing discomfort is the doorway to growth. Naming your emotions reduces their control. Asking what they protect uncovers hidden needs. Taking small, conscious actions integrates your discoveries. And repeating this practice daily rewires your inner world. When you live this way, you honor your spirituality not with distant ideals, but with real courage. You expand your spiritual growth not by pretending to be pure, but by embracing the wholeness of who you are, and you finally begin to experience the freedom of a life no longer ruled by what you fear to admit. Leave your like, subscribe to our channel Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. And to affirm your commitment to true healing, type in the comments, "I confront my shadow and transform my mind." 4. The role of archetypes in shadow integration. During the process of shadow work, Carl Jung revealed that archetypes are not distant theories, but living forces that rise from the unconscious, shaping our emotions, decisions, and patterns in ways we often fail to notice. They are like invisible actors in the theater of the mind, sometimes guiding us, sometimes deceiving us, but always carrying a lesson. Among the most powerful archetypes that appear are the anima and animus, the self, and the trickster. And learning to recognize their presence becomes a turning point in both spirituality and spiritual awakening. For they can either illuminate your path or pull you back into the very darkness you are trying to escape. The anima and animus embody the inner feminine and masculine energies that live within every person. For men, the anima brings forth intuition, sensitivity, and the capacity to feel beyond logic, qualities that are often repressed in cultures that define masculinity only through toughness and control. To deny her is to deny half of your soul, but to embrace her is to find a balance that makes you more whole, compassionate, and deeply connected to life. The animus, in turn, represents structure, discipline, and decisiveness, helping you act with clarity and conviction when the world demands strength. Together, they act as bridges between the conscious and unconscious, teaching that true masculinity is not rigid dominance, but a dance between softness and strength, logic and intuition, discipline and creativity. When you honor both, you gain the courage to meet yourself fully without fear. Beyond these two figures lies the archetype of the self, the symbol of wholeness and integration. The self is not the ego, it is larger, containing both the light you proudly show and the shadow you try to bury. Spiritual traditions across cultures describe it as the higher self, the divine spark, the soul's true essence. When the self appears, often in dreams, visions, or in moments of crisis that strip away illusions, it calls you to live authentically, to shed the masks that society has forced on you, and to realize that real power lies not in conquering others, but in aligning with your inner truth. To awaken the self is to see that freedom is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to live as a whole being who accepts every part of himself, both the luminous and the dark. Yet shadow work is never without resistance, and that resistance often comes in the form of the trickster. This archetype thrives on inversion, disruption, and ego traps, leading you into self-sabotage or convincing you that you have already mastered yourself when you have only scratched the surface. The trickster whispers through temptation, pride, or complacency, trying to pull you back into old habits just when you are ready to break free. He is not there to destroy you, but to test whether your awakening is real or simply another mask. Many men stumble here, confusing fleeting progress for lasting transformation. But those who learn to recognize the trickster's games gain sharper awareness and deeper humility. In this way, even the trickster becomes a teacher, forcing you to refine your vigilance and deepen your commitment to the path. The anima and animus open the way to balance. The self points toward wholeness, and the trickster keeps you from arrogance and stagnation. Together, they create a map of the psyche, showing that your shadow is not an enemy to be feared, but a frontier to be explored. To face these forces with honesty is to master not only the hidden parts of your being, but also the restless mind that so often controls you. To integrate them is to experience a spiritual awakening that reshapes how you love, how you lead, and how you live. In the very depths of the unconscious, where darkness seems overwhelming, lies the key to becoming the man you were destined to be: whole, awake, and unshakably free. 5. Emotional intelligence through shadow work. When you choose to integrate your shadow instead of hiding from it, you begin to notice a remarkable shift in how you move through life. Because as Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think of those moments when the smallest comment ignites a storm inside you, or when familiar frustrations keep circling back. These are not random accidents, but signals from the shadow, urging you to listen. When you finally turn toward them with spiritual wisdom, you become less reactive and more self-aware, not by suppressing emotions, but by learning to interpret their deeper meaning. The shadow holds enormous energy that, when ignored, becomes chaos, but when embraced, transforms into clarity, creativity, and emotional balance. Each time you acknowledge a fear, uncover the jealousy beneath your anger, or recognize a judgment that mirrors your own wound, you reclaim psychic energy that was once wasted on hiding. That energy becomes available for your art, your problem solving, your relationships, and the steady presence that draws others to you. This is the turning point where projection loses its grip. Instead of pushing your hidden insecurities or suppressed anger onto others, you pause and ask, what is this reaction teaching me about myself? In that moment of humility, you break free from blame and step into authorship of your life. Jung reminded us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And this truth creates a bridge from conflict to self-knowledge. With practice, authenticity takes root in your daily life. You speak your truth with kindness, feel your emotions without drowning in them, set boundaries with calm strength, and discover that inner peace is not something to chase, but something that quietly arises when you stop pretending. Emotional strength, in this light, is not a hardened shield, but a supple resilience, the ability to hold grief without collapse, to welcome joy without clinging, to face criticism without breaking, and to admit mistakes without shame. Imagine a simple, everyday scenario. Your partner forgets a promise, your coworker interrupts you, or a driver cuts you off in traffic. Instead of reacting with instant heat, you can treat the surge within you as information, not instruction. By naming the feeling, tracing its root, and asking what it protects, you create space to respond with intention, whether that means calmly stating your need, setting a clear boundary, or choosing to reinterpret the situation with generosity. Slowly, these choices accumulate, and your mind no longer feels like a battlefield of impulses, but like a council where every part of you has a voice, and you, the conscious self, hold steady authority. Carl Jung also warned that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the essence of shadow work, not running from darkness, but using it as raw material for growth. When you embrace this process, you transform hidden pain into wisdom, confusion into clarity, and inner tension into creative force. By bringing light into your own depths, you become less reactive and more aware. You stop projecting pain onto others, and you cultivate authenticity that feels natural and unshakable. Through Carl Jung's teachings and the path of spiritual wisdom, the message is clear. True emotional intelligence is born not from escaping your shadow, but from befriending it. Because only then can you unlock the creativity, balance, and quiet strength that were always waiting for you. If you're still with us on this journey of mastering emotional intelligence through shadow work, comment below, "I'm aware of my emotions." Your feedback helps us grow and connect deeper with you. 6. Practical daily tools for shadow integration. Every one of us carries a hidden side, what Carl Jung called the shadow. And it is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a part of you waiting to be understood, embraced, and transformed. To keep this shadow integrated requires daily practices that ground you in awareness, honesty, and courage, because real spirituality and spiritual growth are not about escaping what is dark, but shining light into it. Self-observation is the first tool. The art of watching your triggers and reactions with calm attention. When you feel jealousy, anger, or insecurity arise, instead of reacting blindly, pause and ask yourself, what deeper wound is being touched? A common example is when a colleague receives praise and you feel overlooked. The irritation is not just about the moment. It is a signal from the shadow, reminding you of an old story about not being valued. By noticing it, you loosen its grip and turn what could have been another cycle of bitterness into a chance for awareness. Reflective journaling builds on this by taking the storm of thoughts and emotions out of your head and placing them on paper. Writing slows you down and forces clarity, exposing repeated patterns you might otherwise miss. Over time, you may see that every time you feel criticized, you retreat or grow defensive. And through writing, you trace this back to childhood moments of rejection. By giving the shadow a voice through your journal, you take away its power to control you from the dark, because what is written is no longer hidden. Dream analysis opens yet another door, because your unconscious speaks at night in symbols and images. A recurring dream of being chased might be your psyche showing you what truths you are avoiding in waking life. When you track and reflect on these dreams, you are in dialogue with the deepest layers of yourself, receiving guidance from within that no outside teacher can give you. Mindfulness then anchors you in the present, teaching you that between stimulus and response lies a sacred pause where freedom lives. If someone cuts you off on the road, your shadow may want to explode in rage, but with mindfulness, you can take a breath and choose patience. It is not about suppressing the anger, but meeting it with awareness, transforming a reflex into a conscious choice. Boundary setting is equally essential, because every time you say yes when you mean no, you feed the shadow of resentment and self-betrayal. Protecting your needs and energy is not selfish, but an act of integrity. When you decline a request you cannot fulfill, you affirm your worth, and in doing so, you prevent hidden anger from festering in the unconscious. Periodic persona check-ins are the final practice, especially relevant in an age where social media constantly tempts us to project masks of success, happiness, or perfection. Asking yourself, "What am I hiding to fit in?" keeps you honest about the roles you play. Perhaps you always act strong when you feel weak, or pretend to be endlessly positive while sadness weighs on you. By noticing these masks, you begin to strip them away and allow your true self to emerge. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that privilege is only possible when the shadow is welcomed instead of denied. The lesson is clear. Observe your triggers to reclaim freedom. Journal to uncover patterns. Study your dreams to hear your soul. Practice mindfulness to meet life with presence. Set boundaries to protect your worth, and question your masks to return to authenticity. These daily tools are not just practices, but pathways back to wholeness, reminding you that mastering the shadow is not about destroying darkness, but about integrating it into light. And in that integration lies the heart of true spirituality and spiritual growth. 7. This is a lifelong journey, not a quick fix. Shadow integration is not a quick solution that you can apply once and be done with. It is a lifelong journey, a discipline that requires patience, honesty, and courage. As you grow, new layers of your shadow surface, revealing aspects of yourself you thought were resolved, but are simply waiting for the right moment to show themselves. You may conquer one form of fear, only to discover another hidden beneath a new responsibility or relationship. You may believe you have overcome anger, only to realize it still lingers when life challenges you in unexpected ways. This is why Carl Jung insisted that the more you evolve, the more refined your awareness must become. Awareness must be sharpened like a blade, because only with clarity can you see the subtle ways your shadow still shapes your choices, your words, and your daily habits. Without this awareness, you risk being controlled by what you refuse to acknowledge. Jung warned that ignoring the shadow invites chronic psychological suffering, and you can see this truth all around you. The man who hides his insecurity behind arrogance ends up alone and misunderstood. The man who refuses to face his unresolved anger distracts himself with work, alcohol, or endless busyness. But inside, he is breaking down. Suppression does not eliminate the shadow. It makes it stronger, a silent master pulling the strings of your life from the dark. This is the tragedy of a man who avoids himself and becomes imprisoned by what he refuses to face. But when you dare to turn toward the shadow and confront it with honesty, something powerful happens. You reclaim your freedom, your strength, and your wholeness. You no longer live as a divided man, one part polished for the world, while another hides in shame and fear. You live as an integrated man, unafraid of the truth that resides within you. The rewards of this integration are profound. By embracing your shadow, you transform weakness into wisdom, fear into power, and shame into authenticity. You begin to walk with a sense of inner authority because nothing within you is being denied. This is the essence of spirituality. It is not about pretending to be pure light, nor about escaping suffering, but about holding both your light and darkness in balance. True spiritual awakening comes when you no longer run from yourself, when you allow every part of your being to be seen, understood, and embraced. The shadow you fear is not your enemy, but the hidden doorway to your liberation. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. By making your shadow conscious, you no longer stumble blindly into repeating patterns. You rise above them and take control of your own destiny. This is the work of a lifetime, but it is also the path to becoming a whole and powerful man. 8. Final message: choose truth over comfort. Mastering the shadow, as Carl Jung revealed, is a one-way path. Once you uncover what has been buried in the darkness, you cannot turn back or unsee it. The shadow is not some distant concept. It is the hidden side of your own soul. The parts of you that you deny, repress, or try to bury beneath the polished mask of social acceptance. Yet these denied aspects do not disappear. They sink into the unconscious, shaping your life silently, creating patterns you may mistakenly call fate. Jung's warning echoes here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Facing your shadow is not about destroying who you are. It is about reclaiming the lost fragments of your spirit and integrating them into your wholeness. Real transformation demands courage, for it asks you to confront not only the parts of yourself that shine, but also the ones that sting the anger, jealousy, grief, and longing you try to hide. These emotions linger like shadows, whispering from the depths, until you finally turn to face them. By stepping into this confrontation, you begin the true work of spiritual wisdom, where spirituality is no longer about light alone, but about making the darkness conscious and using it as a source of growth. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, Jung reminds us. And it is this courageous confrontation that opens the door to authentic awakening. The shadow, once feared as an enemy, becomes your greatest teacher. It strips away illusions, revealing the truth of who you are beneath every mask, every pretense, every desperate attempt to be accepted. In this raw honesty, you discover freedom. When you have faced the worst within yourself, you become emotionally unshakable. No insult, rejection, or opinion can destabilize you, because you have already walked through the fire of your own depths. You begin to live authentically, rooted in an aliveness that others can sense immediately. Those who walk this path radiate presence, because they no longer trade their truth for approval. They embody a life aligned with reality rather than illusion. To choose this journey is to choose truth over comfort. Comfort keeps you trapped in the same cycles, but truth liberates you, even if it first burns. This is the essence of spiritual awakening. It is not about ignoring what hurts, but about embracing it, transforming it, and allowing it to shape you into someone fully alive. The question you must ask yourself is simple. Do you want to remain in comfort, or do you want to live in truth? If you are ready, speak it into existence as a commitment to your own growth. Comment, "I am willing to face my shadow," as a declaration that you choose courage, authenticity, and awakening over the illusion of safety. Throughout this journey, we've explored Carl Jung's powerful insight that by facing and mastering your shadow, you unlock the key to mastering your own mind. True growth begins not by denying the darker parts of ourselves, but by integrating them, transforming hidden fears into wisdom and inner strength. As you step away from this video, I encourage you to reflect. What part of your shadow is asking to be acknowledged today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story may inspire someone else on their path. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us here at Spiritual Wisdom for more guidance on your journey towards self-mastery and inner peace.